I welcome you all in the Oleic Club. My name is Katerina Konishchuk, and today we are here in this tight circle of producers of um, sunflower, traders, processors, and everyone who actually value the original quality from Syngenta. So we will speak about this niche market of high oleic oil and sunflower seed. So we will talk about the uniqueness of this season. I mean, the global market and also the local market as well. So we will take a closer look at perspectives of forward contracts, and we will try to figure out where is the margin, where it's hiding. So today with us, we also have two representatives of the global market, and with them, we'll start the first panel with them. And right now, I'd like to present those whom we have in our studios are representatives of well-known companies like Kernel, Alexander Terziev with us, Anna Korsh, representative of AgroProsperis, and Yuri Shlonchak. He represents the MHP company. So for us, the local market is very important, but the global picture, this is something really, really, really important. And when we try to review the global market, so this is something that we actually start our session with, the review of the global market. So we have so many representatives today of those who actually worked with high oleic sunflower and high oleic oil for quite a long time, but we also have people among our audience, among our listeners only, let's say, are new to this. This is something new to them. So I will share a personal story. So for the first time when I actually when I bumped into the high oleic sunflower in 2011, that happened in Kharkiv region when I took part in Harmelia project, Harmelia company project. At that time, the conditions were very unique because, premium for high oleic sunflower was very stable, $35 per ton, and it was really stable for quite a long time. And we also did not have a lot of alternatives whom to sell. We only had one or two buyers. And with these buyers, we did not even sign forward contracts. And all the negotiations, the agreements, we can have that there were no agreements, basically. So it was quite a huge risk for us. Then the high oleic oil became very attractive. In 2014, 2015, we saw such a high premium. And in fact, it actually created an explosion, stimulated an explosion at high oleic sunflower market. And closer to 2016, unfortunately, this premium level went down. Well, of course, local market, it's impossible to drag it from the global picture, to take it out of the global picture. And we need also to mention that, yes, oils and fats are in certain, in certain volume. So sunflower oil is a part of oil and of global oil volume, and less than 10% goes to sunflower oil in this proportion. And high oleic sunflower oil is even less than 10%, of course. And let's take a closer look at the global market. And first of all, we take the palm oil, which actually takes the leading position on the production in the world. So it's one of the most popular. And this is, let's say, the prioritized trend when we talk about the changes. So we need to take into account when we talk about the changes and transformations in the sunflower market. So I'd like to present our foreign specialist, foreign experts, the guru, we can say, the true guru in palm oil production, representative of the company Lípidos Santiga, José Ángel Olivero. So we are so glad to have you with us today, and we'd like to understand what are the trends in the palm oil market, and of course we want to know its role in the structure of the market.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation, and I like to thank all the audience for attending this High Oleic Club, and especially Syngenta company for inviting me again to give this speech, in this case, about the palm oil market and its role in the vegetable oil complex. So I will speak about the world supply and demand of oils and fats. Then I will speak about the biodiesel mandates. Biodiesel is more and more important in its role in the world market is higher and higher because the percentage of oils used in biodiesel are higher every year. Then I will speak about the theory of supply and demand and what happened last year and still this year with oil, with prices, why prices skyrocketed. The principle of communicating vessels, the replaceability of oils and fats and raw materials in general. I will mention about the main consuming sectors of palm and high oleic sunflower oil. And finally, I will end up with some conclusions. Okay, world vegetable oils supply and demand. What is produced globally in the world? So we produce in the world around 242 million tons of oils and fats, and this is 2.7 times more than 27 years ago, when we produced only 87 million tons. As you can see in this chart, palm oil is the most important oil produced worldwide with 32.3% of the total. Palm oil is now the number one, but it was not the number one 27 years ago. It was soybean oil with 21% and then palm oil 15%. So the importance of palm oil doubled in this period. And if you take into account also the palm kernel oil production, which also comes from the palm trees. So palm trees basically produce two types of oils, palm oil and palm kernel oil, the oil coming from the kernel. This represents also in globally around 3% of the total world production. PKO represented here is 3%, CNO is 1.5%. So palm oil global production is over 35% of the total. For your information, only sunflower oil only represents around 8.6% of the total. Talking about oil seeds, the main 10 oil seeds produced worldwide, we had last year or last season, 1920, we had a strong deficit in production. So production was well below disappearance. The total, the stocks were reduced during the year because the crushing was higher than the production. So in 2021, we will have a situation where the production and disappearance will be very similar, but still there will be a slight deficit. So the situation will continue being a little bit tight for the oilseeds. Talking about oils and fats, we measure here the 17 main oils and fats produced worldwide, and the total production in 2021 is forecast to be around 240 million tons. This is 6 million tons over last year, so the production is going to increase. So this will be a relief for the prices and for the tight situation that we have today, because as you can see here also in this chart or in this graph, the 1920 production was around 2.5 to 3 million tons lower than in 1819. So this is the reason why the prices of not only oilseeds but also oils went up dramatically during the last part, Q3, Q4 last year, and also still right now. We have a problem in palm oil with expansion of the planting area. The growth of the planting area in Malaysia and Indonesia is being coming down during the last few years, and right now in Malaysia, for instance, is very close to zero. So palm oil in Malaysia is not growing at all, and in Indonesia is still growing a little bit at around 1.5 to 2% growing rate, but it is expected that in the next few years, because of deforestation concerns, the expansion area will be very close to zero. So we have a problem with yields, and the problem with yields, in principle, yields would have to come up, because if area is not expanding, we need higher yields to increase production. However, the climatology is affecting a lot to production. So what happened during the last couple of years with production? We measure here the Oceanic Nino Index. Everybody, I think, heard about this weather phenomenon, El Nino, that is followed by, normally is followed by La Nina, which is the opposite effect. So in 2018, during Q3 and Q4, but also in 19 Q1 and Q2, we had a very strong El Nino. When we have El Nino in the Southeast area, Southeast Asia area, we have a drought. We lack rainfall, so this is affecting 1 year after production, because as you know, palm oil comes from a tree, from palm trees, and palm trees suffer the dryness or dry periods 1 year after they happen. So you can see here when this number in red is over 0.5, it means that you have El Nino, and it was prolonged for almost 1 year. But then also after a few months, in Q4 2019, we again had a light El Nino that lasts for about 6 months. So Q4 2019, Q1 2020. And this is still affecting the production of palm oil by the beginning of this year. It affected a lot the production of palm oil during 2020, the whole 2020 year, but also the beginning of 2021. However, as you can see here, these blue numbers in negative over 0.5, it means that we have La Nina. And La Nina means that you have a lot of rainfall, and then the production 1 year after is going to be high. So we can expect the production of palm oil during Q2, Q3, Q4 2021, and probably Q1, Q2 2022 as well. We are going to have very good production. So the yields are going to expand. This is the current situation of palm oil production and stocks in Malaysia. Malaysia is the second largest producing country of palm oil after Indonesia, but we have much better statistics from Malaysia than from Indonesia that don't provide very good and accurate information. So production in Malaysia, as you can see, the blue line, the blue bar is representing the production from the monthly production, and especially as from October, November, December 2020, the production was much lower than 1 year before or 2 years before, 2018 and 2019. 2019 is the gray bar, and the yellow bar is 2018. Also, the stocks, because of the low production, the stock situation is very tight, as you can see here, because the blue bar represents the 2020 stocks level, and they are very low compared to the previous 2 years. India and China are very important for the palm oil market and for the global oil market. India and China are the two largest importers, together with the European Union. For your information, India, which is the largest importer of oils worldwide, imports around 9 to 10 million tons of palm oil every year. Also, as you know, they import significant and higher quantities of sunflower oil, 2.5 to 3 million tons every year. And China is also a big importer of palm oil. They are importing around 6 to 7 million tons. They went up from 5 to 7 to 6, 7 because they weren't able to import a lot of beans from the United States during the last couple of years or 3 years because of the conflict they had with the economic war with the United States. So they imported less beans, and they had to import more palm oil to replace the soybean oil that they didn't produce. So we can expect that if they come back to the normal situation where they were buying more beans, they will import less palm oil in the coming months and years, because they will produce locally soybean oil. India is promoting internally the self-sufficiency of oils and fats and oil seeds. So they want to promote the production of oil seeds in the coming 5 years. They have a program. So they are imposing very high import duties for oils and fats. For instance, for palm oil, they have a 35%, 35.75% import duty, and for soft oils, 38.5. Currently, they have a strong deficit. Let's say the stock level in China and India is very low. They ended up the year with 27% less stock than the previous year, and they will have to replenish these stocks. So they will probably import significant quantities during the next few months. However, because of the high price of sunflower oil, for instance, in India, my guess is that they will import less sunflower and probably more palm oil. This is the global worldwide production of palm oil. As you can see here, is 78 million tons. For your information, you have about 8 million tons more palm kernel oil, because palm kernel production is roughly 11% of the palm oil production. So if you have 78 million tons of palm, you have 8 million tons of palm kernel, right? So total is 85, 88, 86 million tons. In 2021, the production is going to grow by 4 million tons versus the previous year, where we had a strong fall of another 4.5 million tons. We came from the record production year of 18-19 of 78 million tons. We came back to 73.5, but this year we are going to recover almost all the production that we lost in 1 year because of La Nina and El Nino effect. Now you can see here the effect of, first of all, El Nino and then La Nina. It is very curious. First of all, you always have El Nino and then La Nina. It's never the other way around. So the stock situation, as you can see here, is very tight at the moment, and it will slightly recover this year, but not completely, because the consumption, as you can see also, is more stable. I mean, the consumption is growing every year, constantly, more or less, and it's only you can see the when you have a lower consumption, is just because not the food market, but because of the biodiesel market. 25% of the total palm oil consumption today is going to biodiesel sector. So when you have a production problem like we had last year, what you have is a lower biodiesel usage, a biodiesel production out of palm, because the palm oil consumption for food is always going up and up. So this is the price evolution during the last couple of years. The last 4 years. You had during the 2018 and 2019, we experienced very low prices. And however, in 2020, especially as from June, July, we had a price increase, price skyrocketed dramatically from 2,000 ringgits to almost 4,000 ringgits, almost double. And this was basically because of lower production, not only of palm, but also of other oils like sunflower, tight stocks, as we saw before, and the slight recovery of the demand after the first wave of COVID-19. You remember March, April, May was the times of the lockdown. So after the lockdown, we noticed an increase in, especially in Oreca sector. Then we have ups and downs, but the demand, we hope, is going to recover slightly. So this is also affecting prices. This is the evolution of the prices since 2017. Basically, palm oil has always been almost always the cheapest oil in the world. Eh? And then the three other most important oils, sunflower, rapeseed, and palm and soybean, are higher, except sometimes when you have a problem in production of palm oil, like here in this peak when palm oil prices peak. So you had even sunflower oil below palm oil prices. There was reasonably good production in Black Sea countries of sunflower seeds. So you have a very good oil production. So prices when production of sunflower oil is very high tend to be even below pound, which is very abnormal. Right now, because of the production problems you had in Black Sea countries of sunflower seeds, the sunflower prices went up over any other, even over rapeseed oil, which has been historically during the last few years the most expensive oil. But palm keeps on going, keeps on being the cheapest. So, what is the current situation? We have yields in the main crops, the main oilseed crops, but also palm, stagnated. However, we have an increasing consumption every year for biofuels and for food. So as production is stagnating and consumption is going up, we have prices going up because mainly yields are not expanding. We need yields, an expansion of yields. Otherwise, we're going to have a situation where we are going to have very tight stocks and prices are going to be very high. And the high prices will probably ration demand. So we need all oils to be produced and we need yields to continue growing. Otherwise, we are going to face problems. We need to increase yields in order, mainly because we need to halt forestation. Deforestation has been a problem that we had, especially in the previous, let's say, 10 years. But then, because of sustainability concerns, it's been reduced to close to zero. And then we need yields, higher yields, more than ever. Why is that? Basically, because the world consumption is increasing by 2 to 4% every year. The world population is increasing, as you know. We are going to be 9.7 billion people in 2050. This is the expectation from the experts, and versus 7.7 today. So we are going to increase 2 billion people in the planet, and the consumption is going to increase because of that. So from the current 240 million tons consumed, we are estimating by 2030 at 2% growing rate, 300 million tons that we need, and by 2050 we will need probably 440. Where are we going to get these oils from? We don't know, but basically from better yields, not from more acreage, more area. What about biodiesel mandates? Well, this is what happened in Europe during the last few years. In the European Union, we noticed a decline of palm oil consumption for food, almost half as 10 years ago. So this is in 2009, 2010, we had 3.6 million tons consumed. And right now we are at the level of 1.8 million tons only. So half of what we had 10 years ago. It's been declining constantly. And basically, the replacement has been sunflower oil, for your information. Palm oil for biodiesel, though, increased dramatically. So we had, during the last decade, an increase from 500,000 tons to 4.5 million tons. So an increase of 4 million tons. Today, Europe is importing about 7 million tons in total. So 4.5 go to biodiesel, 1.8 go to food, and the balance is going to oleochemical industry, feed consumption, and some electricity cogeneration as well. The world is consuming or producing and consuming about 47 million tons of biodiesel. So this is what we estimate for this year, 2021. Last year, as we see here, there was a decline from almost 46 in 2019 to 44.8 in 2020. We will grow again. And the main producing areas worldwide are, as you may know, the European Union, the USA, Brazil, and Indonesia. What feedstocks are used, what type of oils and fats are used for biodiesel worldwide, globally? Basically palm oil in the first place, then soybean oil, rapeseed oil, mainly in Europe, and then also tallow increasing, and used cooking oil, UCO, used cooking oil. This is growing during the last few years a lot. So biodiesel is coming more and more from residues rather than from first, let's say, first use oils, like palm or sunflower or soya or rape. There is very little use of sunflower oil in biodiesel, but when the price is cheap, then we use it. When the price is expensive, we don't use it. Last year, for instance, we had an estimation in 2019, an estimation of 500,000 tons in Europe of consumption of sunflower oil for biodiesel. This year, it will be close to zero. So one thing that we follow a lot is the price spread between palm oil and Brent. This is the first graph, and second graph is versus gas oil prices. So as you see here, the blue area is the price spread. So it's been increasing during the last few months up to almost $500. And versus Brent, also around $500 as well. So basically, this chart is showing you that sometimes palm oil can compete with the petroleum. Sometimes palm oil is very similar in price to petroleum, as you can see in this area, or here versus gas oil. During a period of almost 1 year in 2019, palm oil was even cheaper than gas oil. What about the theory of supply and demand? What I want to say here is just what basically happened during the last months. We had a production problem, so prices went up basically because of production falls. In you have the A, B, C, and D situations, and then the prices go up basically when demand increases for the same supply or when production falls for the same demand. So basically what we experienced during the last few months was this situation. Supply went down, so prices went up. It is needed that the demand to be rationed. Otherwise, the prices will even go higher. The prices, though, will fall when demand drops. The B situation, demand drops, so the price come down, or when supply increases for the same demand. Supply increases, the C graph, so the prices go down. Principle of communicating vessels. What I want to say here is basically that all oils and fats are replaceable. So you can replace sunflower by palm or vice versa. You can replace sunflower by soya, or soya by rape, etc., etc. When price of one particular raw material or one particular oil goes up more than others, then there is a reduction, there is a ration of this oil, and part of the demand goes to another oil. This I put you some examples here. If you can always replace meat by pork or chicken or fish, you can replace a Mercedes by a Renault. If you don't have enough money to buy a Mercedes, then obviously you buy a Renault. Or when you want to buy a cell phone, if you don't have enough money to pay for an iPhone, you buy a Samsung or a Huawei. This is happening for oils in territories like India, China, or Africa. They don't have sometimes enough money to pay for expensive oils. So if price of sunflower goes up very dramatically, like it happened last year, then they start to consume more palm. And most probably what will happen this year is that sunflower oil imports in India, China, and Africa will come down versus historical levels of 1, 2, 3 years ago, and palm imports in these countries will go up. There is always a substitution. The market adjusts prices to supply and demand situation. Biodiesel and food is a clear example as well, because the oil, you can use less oil for biofuel and more for food if necessary to avoid scarcity. Obviously, food demand is much more stable than biodiesel demand. Which are the main consuming sectors of palm and high oleic sunflower? Well, you have many sectors consuming oils and fats in general. So you have the food service is probably the most important, because at least in Europe, 25% of the total oil consumption for food goes to the food service. Then you have biscuits, snacks, pastry, chocolate, baby food, bottling, margarine, canned fish, sauces, and other industrial sectors. In some of these sectors, you use a lot of palm. In some of them, you use a lot of sunflower. So the leader is high oleic sunflower oil, or is palm, or is butter, or is cocoa butter, or is any other. So in some of the sectors, like bottling, for instance, you don't have palm at all. In some of the sectors, you don't have, like margarine, for instance, you use very little high oleic sunflower oil. Or in canned fish, you use no palm. You don't use high oleic sunflower, but you use a lot of conventional sunflower. Sauces is another example. In sauces, you use no palm, no hoso, but a lot of sunflower. So palm oil, why we use it widely is because it's very stable oil. Normally, the food sector requires high performance oils. As everything in life, you like a high performance car, you like a high performance iPhone or cell phone, you need high performance oils. So palm oil is very consistent, it's very stable. The palatability is not of food products is not affected by palm oil. When you fry in palm oil, the taste of the product remains the taste of the product, not the taste of the oil. So it is a very demanded oil because of these reasons, but also because the sustainability of this oil is gaining importance, and more in the European Union, this oil is consumed sustainable. Almost 100% of the total consumption of palm oil in Europe now is sustainable under the scheme of RSPO or the scheme of ISCC. Also, because it's a very healthy oil, together with any other oil. I mean, all oils we consider are healthy if you eat them in the right proportion. So basically, palm oil contains the same fatty acids as oils like olive or sunflower. So why should one be very healthy and the other not? We don't know the reason. Basically, we consider palm oil, if you eat in reasonable amounts, very healthy. It's very versatile as well, so you can use it for many different applications. Obviously, all food applications, but also for biofuels. And as you know, worth to mention the fight we have in the European Union and also a little bit worldwide between high oleic sunflower and palm oil. Palm oil is being, during the last few years, replaced by high oleic sunflower in many applications. Food service, for instance, you have very little palm used there. Is, as I mentioned before, 3 million tons of oils go to this sector, where 25% of the total oils and fats are consumed, or total food demand in the European Union is out of home. It's been affected very severely by the COVID-19, and it's very sensible to price. So it means that when, for instance, high oleic sunflower oil is very expensive, or the premium over conventional sunflower, or even the premium over palm oil is very high, the consumption goes down. And when the high oleic sunflower oil premium is low, or zero versus conventional sunflower, then the consumption goes up dramatically. Biscuits, for instance. In biscuits, you don't have a lot of flexibility, and a lot of the exchangeability or the replaceability of oils and fats is very limited. Why? Because you label the product. You label the biscuits with the name of the oil you are using. You are putting there, writing there, sunflower or palm, etc. So out of the many fats you use in biscuits, the most important is palm oil, with around probably 80% of the total. However, even if the high oleic sunflower oil has an upward trend in consumption in this sector, we can say that there is a limitation of consumption of high oleic. But no question that when the premium is low, the consumption goes a little up. Same happens for snacks. You label snacks, so the replaceability is limited. Today, you are using a lot of, you find a lot of high oleic sunflower oil in snacks, and little palm. Still, some amounts of palm, maybe about 10 to 15 to 20% of the total, especially in Europe. Worldwide is probably a little higher, because in other countries, palm oil is not a concern. But in the European Union, it is. So in the European Union, you have more high oleic consumption than palm for snacks. But the exchangeability is limited. You don't replace because of price reasons. So my conclusions: basically, the world needs palm oil, but also other oils, current production. So we need the current, not only the current production, but also the future production. We need to increase yields to halt deforestation, because the planting area is limited. We don't have too much possibilities for expansion area, neither in palm or in oil seeds. So we need to increase yields, and we need the production to be sustainable and the consumption to be responsible. Finally, to end up with some words about high oleic sunflower and sunflower sector in general, the demand of sunflower oil, especially in Europe, is very good, and the potential is good, because the image is very nice for the Europeans, and the high oleic sun has an excellent demand and future. However, it has a limit. I have to say that it has a limit. It cannot grow to levels probably over 15% of the total sunflower oil production. The premium totally disappears, and then there's no incentive for the farmers to plant high oleic varieties. Finally, just to say that biofuels are very important, and not only because of we need to reduce greenhouse gases emissions worldwide, but also to maintain a good price for agricultural commodities, for oils and fries, for oils and oilseeds. To maintain a good price level, we need biofuels. Otherwise, the price of raw materials, agricultural commodities, will drop dramatically. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, please let me know. Or if you want to make questions later on, you can always write to my email address, jaolivero@lipsa.es. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Jose. Thank you so much. Of course, the balance of supply and demand, of course, it's very important. It will always be there, and everything is balanced with a price. So, dear friends, we have a very unique opportunity to provide your questions to the world experts. Please write in chat, and in the very end of the first panel, I will definitely bring it to our experts. And I want to remind you that today, in the focus of the High Oleic Club, we talk about economic and commercial components of growing and trading in the high oleic seeds and oils, all the agricultural issues, all specificity of growing, so everything. So you can ask Syngenta experts anything in this sector. So right now I'd like to pass the floor to a unique person who, let's say, was one of the founders of the High Oleic Club in Ukraine, and one of the, I guess, best experts in high oleic seeds and oils, Luis Carlos Alonso. He's with us today. And I'd like to say also that this person, within so many years, has not only been creating these reviews of the world S&Ds, and he was also generating certain perspective and valuable proposals, and he was assessing the expectations regarding the premiums, but also he provided very, very substantial recommendations on forward contracts and also its implementation in Ukraine. So, Luis Alonso, the floor is passed to you. We are so glad that you still support the initiative of the High Oleic Club.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us on talking about this High Oleic Club meeting. This time should be online. I hope it will be good for everybody because there has been many things happening in the last year, and we have a very challenging year for the future. Today I will try to bring you the latest situation. Of course, I might be wrong, but let's try to go through the presentation and see what are the questions after. I will do a summary of the general market figures, general situation. I also see the recent sunflower seeds and oil production, what has been in 2020, the situation of the classic sunflowers as well. And I will talk about the High Oleic market, the supply in 2020, and what we expect to be in the 2021. In order to help you to follow up what I will show you today, I like always to show first a summary of my figures so that you can expect after what I do. High Oleic premiums 2020, 2021. There has been a strong drop of High Oleic premiums offered to farmers this year, as everybody knows. But it is being very difficult to follow due to the high volatility of the classic sunflower prices. Premiums, in some cases, have been negative, but I'm not sure if this negative situation came from forward contracts or real market negative premiums. What we know very clearly is what was being offered to the farmers in Argentina during planting last fall. They started between $30 and $40 for the new crop that will be harvested by March, April this year. But later on, they dropped to $20. So this is quite solid information. The crop of 2020, we knew there was a very high increase in area planted versus 2019, but the output of crop could be zero or near zero. In the increase in the output, lower yields in oil, in oil containing in all sunflower across all the countries, not only High Oleic but normal sunflower as well. That also increases because of the low premiums, the lower segregation ratio. A lot of sunflower lost mixed with the normal sunflower. And what has been surprised, but is not rare, is that any demand for sunflowers to crash. We'll see that in the market situation. For the new planting, 2021, we thought there was going to be a follow-up of the pattern we observed in 2017 after the low premiums we had in 2016. And more or less, this will be the situation, but might be hiding as well. So 10-15% lower area planted could be possible, still to be planted this year. but the differences country to country are very, very, very high. The supply chain, it seems that the contracting for 3 years with average premium seems to be a protecting for all the participants. But farmers should consider also the possibility to do forward contract with fixed prices, including the high oleic premiums, which mean using the high oleic as an insurance for final sunflower prices. Let's go to the next slide. This is a summary for what has been the production of sunflowers according to the adapted from the overall statistics. That shows that in general there has been a drop in the sunflower production in all the countries, and this reduction has been or is mentioned to be more than 5 million tons of seed. 5 million tons of seed is a huge amount of crop that is impacted, which means a lot of the supply chains participants, particularly the crushers, have been fighting to get that crop. And what happened is when they discovered that in the September, there was a panic because there were many open positions. The question mark remains is how will be the price when all these open positions will be covered. In regard of the premiums, this is a classic follow-up. As I say before, it's very difficult to do an average of prices because they have been in country to country and operation to operation. So it's not easy to follow up. What I can say is with volatilities in some cases from one day to the next, in the normal sunflower prices of minus $60, $65, or ups with over $55, any price that you get on the market today could be yesterday different. I mean, it's being very, very difficult. What we can say is in some countries there has been no real premiums or very, very little premiums, and for the high oleic. And what that means, we will see later on. Situation today is again for the supply to the farmers, the premiums are low or very, very low or non-existing. And the oil that still remains a small amount of differentiation if you get several figures from different places. But look at what happened with the prices on the normal sunflower at the farm gate. In this is data from Ukraine. I have adapted the data from Niblon. You can see the tendency has been except a small drop during the last part of September, beginning of October. It has been a continuous increase in prices. Today, over $750 US dollars per ton of seed, which means very difficult or almost negative margins in crushing. This is the reality of the market. The situation is because the lack of crop and a lot of competition for the existing crop. And with this situation, the main target for a crusher is to get supply and to keep the activity working at a decent margins. Whether high oleic or not, maybe not so important in most cases. Let's see what's happening with the trends. I did this slide back in September, and I want to stress that I was making two forecasts on the right side of the slide for 2020, in which I was calculating this in red is what I consider the demand, which I leave it more or less flat, which is not the case because it is increasing. And I calculated two possible scenarios depending on the yields that we were expecting and also the amount of high oleic crop that is not harvested separately in Ukraine and Russia mainly. But in these two scenarios, my numbers were clear. In one case, we had more production than demand, and the other one we were below. That depends the amount of sunflower crop that does not sell, is not sold as high oleic. What happened after is even worse than that because in countries like Romania, Bulgaria, a certain part of the market is planted with varieties which are mid oleic. the high premiums, these middle Oleics become high Oleic. But if they are low premiums, those unfortunately go to the classic sunflowers. So historically, in 6-year averages, we have estimated that 32% of the Ukrainian sunflower crop and 60% of the Russian high Oleic sunflower crop has not been sold as high Oleic. This is different from many other countries, but it represents quite a solid number when we see the area planted and the exports of oil in Ukraine. So it's quite consistent. There are many reasons for that. One of them is obviously the very low premiums. If there is very low premiums, this fall below 10% of the total price. There are farmers that prefer to sell this seed to any crusher around, either because it is cash pay or because he has not to pay transport cost. In the case of Russia, not many operators buying high Oleic sunflowers. But also, what is happening this year, as I say, is the strong demand for any sunflower seed to crush has made the crushers to take any seed that was give it to them at a very good price, by the way. The prices of sunflower today are much higher than last year high Oleic with premiums. So this is the historical reduction we have in Russia. And what I forecasted in September was at least 60% of the crop was not going to be harvested high Oleic. I have little information on Russia because the number of players in high Oleic is very limited in this country. And distance are also very high. In Ukraine, my forecast was that 40% of the area of the high Oleic sunflower was not going to be commercialized as high Oleic sunflowers if the premiums fall below $40 per ton of seed. I think we're much lower than that. I honestly don't know how much has gone away today. But on the other hand, I say the numbers are very, very consistent. These are the total high Oleic oil exports from Ukraine. In the top, you see the harvest year. So it is from September to August of the next year. So as you see, the European Union has increased by 122% the total high Oleic sunflower imported from Ukraine. This is very important because we have COVID. And even with COVID, Europe had an increase of its own production, plus an increase of the share of the total high Oleic export from Ukraine. But what is more important is Asia Pacific. In Asia Pacific, the increase has been several times, from 33,000 to over 130,000 in 1 year. If that tendency follows, you can see the Asia Pacific is more than doubling the high Oleic imports every year from Ukraine. In summary, I can say in the high Oleic, the consumption of 2019-20 versus 2018-19 has increased significantly. I say this was a surprise, despite of the COVID. As I say, Europe had grown 28%, and plus the imports of Ukraine also. So this is a lot of things. And Asia Pacific over 393%. What happened with the offer of this year? As I say, we have seen in the area planted maybe an increase of 30% versus 2018, but average yields much lower all across the sunflower area production, particularly in the East Europe, 20-25% yield reduction in general. Low premiums, no attraction for the farmers. Big deficit of sunflower, 5 million tons for crushing. Any sunflower for crushing is welcome. And middle Oleics in the areas of Romania, Bulgaria mainly, not reaching 82%, likely to sold as classic. So we'll see what will happen with the next month's premiums. That is going to be a very, very clear indication of if we have enough or not to cover 2021 with high Oleic offers. What will happen for next year? Okay, we see today, and we'll see now, I will show you the numbers, between 10 and 18% lower area planted than in 2020 for high Oleic. But okay, here is some of the situation. Crushers in some countries are pushing to stop that reduction by offering some moderated premiums, $20, $40. They are in some cases offered to special clients, to loyal clients, to the clients that commit with the contract, etc. And forward contract with fixed total price also is possible. I have not seen any cases of minimum prices guarantee or minimum premium guarantee, or either fixed or the other. But these are just starting to be in that direction. As I said before, 3-year contract with average, it could be a good solution for everybody in the supply chain. And here are the numbers we can get from plant seed. As always, here it's too early to know exactly because, as I said before, we have an increase of total sunflower area planted on one side, and then on the other side, we might have a reduction of the proportion of high Oleic sunflowers. But in saying that, noted that the farmers' ways of working normally is they have a tendency to buy what they like first, the variety of the hybrid they like. If they cannot find that, they go for a second option. Very often, this second option can be either from the same company or a known hybrid from previous years. That situation is creating today, because of the general increase of sunflower demand, a lack of, I won't say lack of seed, but lack of the preferred varieties for the farmers. So many farmers are taking the second option. So this is what I give you a range of possibilities. And I can say that some countries, that reduction is more clear, and we can see that this is particularly the case of Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania, probably hidden by the fact that the area might increase. So here is and this is good mainly, as I said before, because the farmers are now preferring the classic varieties in those countries and are not so willing to put high Oleic sunflowers. On the other hand, there are countries which the reduction is almost zero, and that probably is the case of Ukraine. But as I said before, that might be hidden because of the increase of the preferred varieties that the farmers are choosing, and our vision can be a little bit biased in that sense. So in total, my numbers fit on around 10% less area planted. Okay, area planted doesn't mean area harvest. As I said before, that will depend a lot on the premiums that finally are got by the farmers in at the harvest of the year. So in conclusion, high Oleic consumption in 2020, so 1920 versus 1819, has increased, and also this is despite the COVID. The situation now seems to be again stagnated by Oreca sector in all Europe, but we don't know what this is probably due to the third wave or second wave in some countries of COVID, but we will see what happens after this is recovery. Oil offer for current year might not be in excess, despite that the last year crop had many more hectares. I explain why. Lower yields, very low high oil premiums, not incentive to sell as a high Oleic. Over 5 million tons less crop. That makes the crushers take any sunflower for crushing. Securing high oil supply for 2021-22 could be challenging. High oil sunflower area could drop up to 20%, between 10 and 20% for sure. But even this area is planted, maybe farmers are planting it not with the intention of collecting it separately. And if you don't do that properly during planting period, later on it's much more difficult to segregate. In Ukraine, the area may be like 2020, but that is hiding that the real high Oleic probably is again the real intention of high Oleic is probably less than 15% of last year. Grows no Syngenta high Oleic average are performing like classic. So in some cases, when the farmer cannot find the first option for a classic, it takes with no problem in our case high Oleic. That maybe not the same with other companies. In 2021 crop also recommended to contract. We insist on that and commit because here some crusher they were complaining last year the farmers have not committed. It is important for the crusher as well this commitment because they take sales in forward contract, particularly with the big large companies that are the larger consumers. They like to have supply contracts maybe 1 year ahead. So your local crusher, if they make this type of contract, could also contract with you with either fixed premium or minimum premium over the classic, or maybe as a total final price that they could hedge with the sales of oil. I think this is the last part of my presentation, so I'm ready now for any question.
Thank you, Luis Carlos. Thank you so much. It's really so nice to get this updated information, to get your vision on high oleic market in Ukraine, and not only in Ukraine. Yes, we do have so many questions already to you and to Jose Oliviero. So if I may, first I'll start with Jose. Jose, do you get us well
Yes.
right now? Do you get the sound?
Yeah.
Okay, it's great. So the first question to you. So on the first slide, you provided the statistics for the fats. Are the fats increase? And please, we want you to detailize what other fats also go up. The share of which fats increases, please, just to provide details.
Yeah. Well, basically, the larger increase is coming from palm, but also we expect that next year, by the end of this year, because of better yields in sunflower oil, in sunflower seeds, we are going to have a booming, probably sunflower oil crop, or sunflower seed crop. So we will have a record crop in sunflower oil. So these numbers are provided by the guru Thomas Milke from Oil World, and he expects sunflower oil going up strongly, palm oil especially, not only palm but also palm kernel oil, as I mentioned before. So you will have about 4 million tons increase in palm oil, but also another 400,000 tons of palm kernel oil. And then don't forget that the soybean oil crop, soybean seed crop in North America is expected to be good as well, because the planting intentions in the US are much higher. So they are going to plant record area, record acreage this year, and by the end of this year, they are going to have a record crop. So basically, we can expect the end of 2021 and 2022, beginning of 2022, we will see a scenario where you will have a much better production than what we had last year. Did I answer the question properly? Any more questions?
I do hope you did. So this is a question from the chat. So I do hope that Maria actually received an answer for her question. So please tell me, what is your forecast for palm oil prices in 2020 and 2021, and how it will affect other vegetable oils, the situation with other vegetable oils? Thank you.
Well, we have to say that normally the trend, all oil oils and fats are related to each other. So normally when the most important oil in the world, which is palm oil, goes up and down, it affects the other oils and fats as well. So we expect a drop in the prices of palm oil, not probably in the short term, but likely by the end of second quarter or the beginning of the third quarter of still this year. So the production figures are going to grow, are going to be much higher as from probably April, May, or onwards. So we can expect the prices of palm oil coming down probably strongly by Q3, Q2, Q3. So this will affect, no doubt, the other markets as well as obviously sunflower oil and any other vegetable oil. Today you have to if you look at the prices that we have for sunflower oil, for palm oil, and for many other vegetable oils, the prices you have today and the prices you have by for the end of the year, you have a drop of about $250. So the market is inverted, and this is showing an increase of production and a relief in the stock situation. So stocks are going to grow because of production is going to grow, and the prices are trending lower.
Thank you. Thank you. This relief not for the producers, trust me. I mean the price decrease. So we have a couple of questions to Luis Carlos, and then we'll have some general questions. We will get your opinion then. So Luis Carlos, first question to you. So the harvest of high oleic and classic sunflower. So can we compare the situation in Europe and in Ukraine when we talk about the harvest of classic sunflower and high oleic sunflower? So is Ukraine similar in this case to Europe?
You mean about yields, is what you mean?
Okay. Yes, the yields.
Okay, Katerina. Okay, yes. When this started back in the end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, there was a big yield drag between varieties, high oleic and classic. This gap has been almost removed in most countries thanks to the breeding efforts. And in some cases, these gaps are not existing anymore. We in Syngenta have a breeding program that main target for breeding is yield. Why yield? Because yield is a multi-genetic character. It is difficult to breed when a character is due to different many genes. And yield is, is by definition a multi-genetic character. However, when you breed for other traits, like let's say broom rape resistant, mildew resistant, rust resistant, or high oleic, we are talking about single gene characters. Those are much easier to transfer to genotypes, to hybrids that already have the performance. And this is what we do very often in this high oleic. For instance, we have Condi, which is the classic, very high yielding variety, a hybrid in Ukraine and everywhere. And we have Tutti, which is a conversion of Condi. Now we have also other conversions of this hybrid, which include the Clearfield characters, like Esperto. So we try to bring maybe 1 year, 2 years later than when we launch a new novelty, but the high oleic follows after, and we have the performance very similar to the classic. I am not sure this is the case in all the hybrids in the market.
So, for example, from your experience, can you confirm that? Well, I can confirm that in Kharkiv region, the high oleic sunflower yields comparing to classic hybrids of sunflower, it was, let's say, similar. So we will see maybe it's different for someone, and then maybe the local experts will share their information with us. So the next question: with such expensive market as we have today, when we have $600 plus for the ton of sunflower, is it important, is the premium important for high oleic percent? So the farmers must be happy, like, with the general results of with the general yields,
I am
general
not
productivity.
I am not a farmer. I cannot answer to that. Okay, when a farmer grows high sunflowers, not a farmer that grows for the first time, but a farmer that structurally grows in his farm high, they know, in particularly this is the case of Spain or France or countries that have many years already, that the premiums go ups and down, but they don't want to risk volunteers and all problems if they change. So they keep on the higher lake. Premium is a payment for an effort, an extra effort the farmer has to make. No question about that. The farmer has to isolate, clean the machinery, clean all the harvest. If he storage, he has to storage in a clean bin. The transport has to be watched, otherwise they will mix it. So all these efforts needs a compensation. And that compensation, it is traditionally about 10% of the price. Otherwise, why making that effort? But what's happening in the high lake is when the demand grows very quickly and there is not supply, the premiums go very, very, very high like we had last year. And that creates an artificial high price. On the other hand, when we have a little bit more supply than demand, they collapse. And then the farmers that are not structural in this crop, they go up in and out of the market. But certainly, farmers that have to do something extra need some extra money. Whether this is $30, $40, $50, that will depend on where they are, how difficult is all this segregation, small farms versus large farms, etc. But this is why we insisted always from the beginning of the promotion we did in Ukraine, try to contract. If not all the crop, try to contract, do not speculate. Because the middlemen that are often blamed are the crushers. But the crushers, they have to sell the oil to the end users, and the end users can change the formula like that. They can immediately, if they are frying potatoes or whatever, and they see the prices are too high, they automatically have lower prices of, I don't know, corn oil, and they include corn oil in their blends, and automatically to reduce their prices. So the middlemen are as trapped as the farmers. This is what I always insist. Crushers and farmers have to go together, not against each other.
And for you, so you see the solution, the long-term forward contract. This is the solution, as far as I remember, for 3 or 4 years. For example, 20, 30% to fix every year for the long-term perspective.
Inevitably, when you make an average of 3 years, you get with 3-year average, you will get a good premium. That is like that. The problem is the year that you have a lower premium than the market premium, the farmer feels cheated. The reverse situation is also possible, but in the 3-year average, this is the way. What is possible also today is forward contracts, because some large players are making forward contracts with 1 year ahead with end users, because end users don't like to be surprised either. So if they have to sell, and then we have Lípidos here that he can explain about that. They probably are selling oil now for 2022. How do they fix the premium to that? Maybe Jose Angel, you can comment.
Well, difficult. You normally what you do is you take a protection because you don't find sellers for 2022. So you have to make a kind of you have to make assumptions, and the best assumption today is is buying in today's market spot and then store it for maybe one year. So this is a kind of protection that you take when you don't find sellers for long term.
When you mean sellers, you mean farmers that sell to you.
Well. I mean, for us, we purchase from crushers. So if we don't find, we buy crude oils. We don't buy seeds. So when we buy crude high oleic sunflower oil, if we need to buy for 2022 and we don't find sellers of crude oil because they probably don't find sellers of seeds for 2022, what we do is just purchase for today, and then consider the storage and finance cost of 1 year.
Okay.
So this is the best you can do to protect yourself if you don't want to bear a big risk.
Thank you.
So fixing premiums, by fixing the premium, you protect your expenses on segregation, for example. And that is how you can be sure that you'll get certain premium or a route to a classic sunflower.
Yeah, more or less is that.
So I have a next question. What will be the maximum of high oleic sunflower oil in percent from the total for this year and for the long-term perspective? What is your assumption, Luis Carlos? The percentage.
On the total area of sunflowers? Okay, that will change country to country, as we have seen in the past. There are countries like France that are over 80% of the area, or Italy, which is almost 100% of the area high oleic. Other countries have more difficulties to do that. This is the case of Spain, which we have very many small farmers, with making segregating this is very difficult. So here maybe 45% of the area is possible, but no more. And depending on large farms like you have in Ukraine will be converted into high oleic as long as the market continues demanding. We can make a lot of estimations on that, but that will depend on the consumption growth. Jose Angel has mentioned before, maybe Europe is getting to some plateau in consumption. I still think it can grow, but certainly not at the speed of the last years, whereas Asia Pacific is growing now really fast and is just beginning. So where it can end up, it is a way of speculating, but could be maybe 20 or 25% of the total sunflower production.
Is it easy to increase the yields and high oleic areas in future? So can the sunflower get certain areas for, let's say, wheat?
Well, actually, the sunflower area is expanding in some countries, but it's more the last increases has been more in the yield area than in the area. Ukraine, there are people that say that the limit of Ukraine area planted is around 6.5 million hectares. I still believe the western part of Ukraine has a substantial amount of area that could go to the sunflowers. But certainly it's a limit in somehow in terms of the area planted. But yields have constantly been increasing in the last year, thanks to the performance of the hybrids. And this performance of the hybrids has brought a better agronomy along with it. If you see the yields Ukraine has in the 90s, it's now probably more than 3 times that. Same thing happening everywhere. There are more limitations, for instance, in Russia or in Kazakhstan, where they have drought areas, and the yield limited factor is the water. But certainly they can always intensify and increase 20-30% yields with some intensification practices. I see more in Europe intensification as a growth factor, except in the eastern part, as you move toward the east, in Russia or Kazakhstan, there may be areas that can grow. Or in some countries like Ukraine, still western part can still grow sunflower more.
Thank you. And right now we have a question an opinion. I want to get your opinion from both of you. So, Ukrainian farmers are sure that when we actually maintain the volume of high oleic sunflower, they also hope to get certain demand in the end of spring 2021. So this delayed demand, how can we call it? So maybe we will have this trend for increase in the condition when all the countries come out of lockdown and pandemic, when we will have this rehabilitation. So how will the HoReCa segment develop? Maybe the demand will be cut and they will get premiums for their stocks, maybe not as expected, but at least certain premium will be there.
Jose Angel?
Well,
Jose, may you start?
Making estimations about the pandemic is impossible, as we all know. We don't know when we are going to get out of this world situation. So it will recover, yes, one day. When? I don't know. So certainly there is potential for high oleic sunflower, especially in the HoReCa sector. The HoReCa sector is looking for performance. So the bars, restaurants, etc., give a value to sunflower oil, to high oleic sunflower oil. But and they are ready to pay a premium. But how much? This is the most difficult question to answer, because obviously it don't depend on them. It depends on basically on the supply. Basically, the demand of high oleic sunflower, we could say, is more or less is growing at a constant rate, maybe 5, maybe 6, maybe 7% annually. But the problem is supply. The supply, one year you have a 30% increase, and then suddenly you have a 20% decrease, and this is affecting premiums. Obviously, when you have as I think I said before, when you have a low premium, then the consumption goes up. When you have a high premium, the consumption goes down, because the market is ready to pay a premium, but not a huge premium as we had in the previous year, in the beginning of 2020. We had a very high premium, and then the consumption was low. So there is always a replacement for high oleic sunflower, maybe not performing that good, but still performing. So when you have to fry something, you have to fry potatoes, for instance. You can fry potatoes with many type of oils. High oleic being reasonably with a reasonable premium over conventional sunflower, okay, people go for it. But if the premium goes very high, then people abandon it. So it is a supply and demand situation.
Yeah, Katerina, I cannot give you a full answer either on that, but let me make some thinking to share with my friends in Ukraine my thinking. This is what you are looking for. First thing is, people are confined today, but people will compensate that confinement with more parties and more going out as soon as we can. I can assure you this is at least the case in Spain for sure, but I think it's everywhere. So there will be a compensating movement and a lot more activities as soon as the pandemic allows that, with the vaccination that is starting now in most countries. Second thing is that Jose Angel has mentioned, palm oil is going to start weakening the prices by the second half of this year because of the new production. And let's suppose that this palm oil goes down $200, which is substantial, because out of 1,200 is 20%. So it's not a small drop. But we remember the historical spread between normal sunflower and palm oil. There is always a spread, $100, $150, maybe $200, maybe sometimes 50, sometimes they go together, but they are. So that means that if we have palm oil in $800, we will have normal sunflower in $1,000. And if normal sunflower is $1,000 per ton of oil, that will represent automatically a drop of $300 from today. And in that moment, having $150 more for a premium for high oleic will be perfectly acceptable. So my forecast in that is that if the sunflower prices follows the drop that is expected because of the extra production, because of the palm oil market, the high oleic sunflower will remain or will follow slower, and the premium will start to show up more clearly. Because 1,000 versus 1,150 is $150 more. It's sometimes acceptable, but another $200 over 1,300 as today prices, it is difficult for the end user to use that. So as prices go down, premiums will go up. Perhaps not as in 2019, but to certainly more acceptable level for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. So
Mhm.
I loved the idea, the opinion of Serhiy Repetsky, who represents the Sunstone Company, that in the condition when we have no premiums for high oleic oil, consumers have a wonderful opportunity with the same price to buy high oleic oil, try it, assess it, evaluate it, quality, its taste, and in future, maybe the demand for such oil will go up when they try it. And right now, they do not pay anything extra, so they have this chance to try it. So what would you say? Potentially, will it actually, will it increase the consumption?
I will say that more or less everybody knows, at least in Europe, more or less everybody know the benefits of high oleic sunflower oil. So it's simply a question of price and premium. So when the premium is like today 0, people is very willing to consume high oleic sunflower oil. There are some always some applications that where some high oleic sunflower oil is not used so far, like canned fish or like mayonnaise, for instance. They hardly use any high oleic sun oil. They could try, but it doesn't give them any benefit. So even if the price is similar to conventional sunflower oil, they have no interest. They have no incentive to try it and to test, because even they will say, if I change now to high oleic sunflower oil when the premium is $200, I will have to abandon it because it is not giving me any benefit. So yes, it is a good moment to try it. Maybe not in Europe, because in Europe everybody knows it. Maybe in other geographies, but yeah, it is very much about the premium. When premium is high, people, why premium is high? Because there is little sunflower oil, there is little high oleic. So then we need to ration demand. So price is up, we ration demand, so less consumption. When the price is low, is because there is a huge production, so we have to ration demand of the conventional one and increase the demand of high oleic. So this is how the market is moving. This is the theory of supply and demand, right?
Caterina, what you have, your question you have made is very, very interesting. And it brings me thinking about that, because actually, what are the 3 axes for high oleic increases? Has been on one side, has been the performance, particularly the oxidation stability. The second one has been regulatory, or let's say anti-palm movements that have made consumers to, particularly the industries, to look for labels without palm. Whether this is right or wrong, I'm not entering on that. It's a fact that this has been one of the drivers. And the third one is the health. It is clearly that high oleic oils are healthier for all the coronary diabetes, kidney problems. But if you see the consumption today of high oleic sunflower oil, is very hardly seen in the shelves of the supermarkets. So the consumption has gone to the industry, and the industry has evaluated the performance, the label, have mentioned about the health, but this has been something to tell, not something that has driven to me the change. Whereas the consumer that goes to the shelf doesn't know what is the difference between high oleic and the other yet in many countries. And that could change in the, as you said before, with the prices similar.
Thank you. Thank you. So another question, why farmers in Romania prefer hybrids of linoleic sunflower, but they do not pick the high oleic? And yes, Mr. Alonso, thank you for this vyshivanka, for this embroidered Ukrainian t-shirt you're wearing right now. This is really very nice to see.
Yes, I feel more close to Ukraine when I wear it. So now the Romania is increasing substantially in the last years. The high oleic sunflower as well. Romania area planted last year was close to 200,000 hectares of high oleic, which represent nearly between 15 and 20% of the area. So Romania is one of the main suppliers now of high oleic seed and oil, because Romania exports the seed. So I think it's one of the countries that I believe will grow faster high oleic production. And in fact, it was the second one I thought whenever I started this program in 2012, it was Ukraine, and I follow up by Romania, Bulgaria. Let's put together them because they are the same area. Right? Did I answer your question? I don't know.
So Luis got not the high oleic, linoleic sunflower. Why it is preferred more than high oleic in Romania?
By the consumers, I'm not sure about that. I think in general, sunflower consumption today is using normal sunflower, which is called lino sunflower or linoleic. This is the traditional, and this is when you buy sunflower oil, according to the codex, is what you expect to have. High oleic is a different oil. It's the same plant, it's the same genetic, etc. But at the end of the story, you have two completely different products. One is the traditional or linoleic sunflower, and the other is the high oleic. The consumer, I mean, they buy what they have been buying all their life. I cannot imagine anybody rejecting high oleic in a bottle if they try it, because the flavor, everything is the same, it's sunflower oil. But the chemical internally is different, and the behavior in your metabolism is also different. Being the high oleic, much more healthier for adult persons, perhaps for infants or for babies, the high lino is also very appropriate, particularly those that have skin problems.
In general, if I can say something about this, I would say, for instance, in Spain, I think in Romania can be about the same, and in many other countries, the most popular oil, well, after olive oil in Spain, but in many countries, the most popular oil is sunflower oil, but linoleic one, because it's the one they knew for years. High oleic sunflower oil is an oil for professionals more than for home consumption. The home consumers are not experts on sunflower oil. They just buy what they find in the supermarket. So the professionals, the biscuit manufacturers, the mayonnaise manufacturers, the people that own a bar or a restaurant, they know the yield of high oleic sunflower versus linoleic sunflower. They probably prefer high oleic sunflower. Okay, but at home, people don't differentiate one from the other, because also the companies selling oils in the supermarkets, they compete. They compete to each other, and they want to offer the cheapest price in the market, in the supermarket. So if you suddenly go to the supermarket offering a bottle, which is probably better, and for sure better oil, but it costs 10% more than the linoleic, then people will reject it. People will still go to the cheapest oil. When you go to a supermarket, you buy the cheapest oil, basically the cheapest sunflower oil that you find. So again, high oleic sunflower is for professionals. Linoleic sunflower oil is for home consumption, let's say. I don't know if you agree, Luis Carlos, with that.
Yes and no. I agree totally. This is what is happening. But as I think about when this started back at the end of the 80s. At the end of the 80s, Ekaterina, I remember. I will tell you an anecdote. One of my clients launched it in Spain. Still used the oil, high oleic oil, was Capicua. From Spoonie, from Correiza. And this, I brought home a bottle, that oil, say, look, to my wife, this is how oleic sunflowers come from my seed. I was a breeder in that time. And my wife, we did not react to that. I said, okay, let's taste it. And she tested. She fried something. We say, well, yeah, it's a little bit better frying, but, it's sunflower oil. I mean, we have in Spain olive oil, as you know, everything. A few months later, I live in an apartment that in the bottom of the apartment, there was a supermarket chain that had many shops in Sevilla. And then the guy there came to me and said, can I ask you a question? I said, yes, what do you want? I said, what this oil has different from the other sunflower oils? Because in this area, all the women are asking me for this oil. And I am the only one in all the supermarkets in Sevilla requesting this oil. But the moment I don't have it in the shelf, I get all sorts of complaints. So education and publicity is very important. And that shows you that if the people that goes to buy to the supermarket understand the difference, they will evaluate it. That who invests on that is another story.
Does it matter for consumers whether it's organic or not? Because right now in Ukraine, we have manufacturers, producers who offer high oleic organic oil.
Mm-hmm. You want me to answer that? Or Jose Angel?
Or both.
you go ahead, Jose Angel. You sell the oil. You are the seller.
Well, we sell organic oils in Europe. Sunflower. We also sell rapeseed, soya, palm, coconut, everything organic. And yes, there is a trend from certain people, maybe 1% of the total population, that is looking for organic food, not only oils, but food in general. My sister is mad with organic things, so she buys everything organic. But it is a trend, yes, and it is a very separated market from the conventional one. So it's not the question is not whether this organic oil has a premium over the conventional. It deserves a premium, obviously, but whether the premium is $100, $200, or $500, it depends on the price situation. Right now, for instance, with the very high price for sunflower, the premium tends to be shorter than when price is low. When prices of sunflower oil are very low, like $700, for instance, then the premiums tend to be high. So the market operates separately. You have a market for high oleic organic sunflower and another market for conventional, let's say non-organic. But yes, there is a trend that growing very slowly. The market is basically the developed countries, or the developed territories, like Europe, the US, not Africa, not Latin America, not Asia, for instance, today.
I agree with what Jose Angel says in 100%. Organic segment is a segment in agriculture that is growing, but not at the speed that we expected a few years ago. In any case, whenever you have a crisis like today, COVID-19 crisis, the first one that is affected is precisely that. Why? Because people first is to eat and then to choose what to eat. But first is eating. And in a moment of crisis, these consumptions of organics are going down. Nevertheless, in the long term, I think it is a room for that. Because I'm glad to know that in Ukraine there are good producers of high oil organic. If you want to produce that, you need large farms, so you have it, good soils, so you have it, and good weather conditions, so you have it. So it's not easy for anybody to produce good quality organic as it is in Ukraine today.
Thank you. Do we have a threat? Do we have a threat from high oleic rapeseed and soy in the market? So what is forecasted for high oleic oils from rapeseed and soy? What and soybean? What is forecasted?
Okay,
Luis.
here we have already this market exists. In Canada, we have high oleic canola. High canola is GMO. So it is unlikely these GMOs will come to Europe. Nevertheless, in United States, it's consumed, it's used for the same purposes, for the frying industry mainly, and also other industries. And that will depend on the final prices of what the substitution. In the last years, we have seen rapeseed being much higher in price than sunflowers. And then the high oleic with the premium was even cheaper in some cases than the normal rapeseed oil or at the level of the rapeseed oil. In that case, the preference is clear, high oleic sunflowers. Okay? But with the present situation of the high prices of sunflower, normal sunflower, there might be room for some high oleic winter oilseed rape, as it's happening in West Europe, in France, in England, or Germany. But the moment the sunflower will go down, the preference for the oleic will be still high oleic sunflowers.
Yes, I think also I agree with Luis Carlos. There is competition from especially high oleic soybean, especially for Europe. There is almost no competition because there is no chance for high oleic soybean to succeed being a GMO crop. For your information, the next trend, one of the next trends in oils and fats is avoiding GMOs. Even in the US today and in America in general, some consumers are trying to buy non-GMO oils as well. So I have interest from America in general. So they want European production because of the GMO. So high oleic is the only seed, the only high oleic sunflower is the only high oleic oil non-GMO 100%. So I think the success will be out of sunflower more than canola or soybean.
Thank you. So actually, I think this will be the last question to you for today, and we of course cannot avoid it. So the question regarding the expected prices for the sunflower oil in the next year, and also premium for high oleic sunflower or oil for the next year, and also 3-5 year perspective, what will be the forecast?
I will answer very easily because sunflower prices will be an average of $150 above palm oil. Which is very easy to answer because then you ask the palm oil prices to Jose Angel. And high oleic sunflowers will have a premium between $80 and $150 when the normal prices of sunflower will go below $1,100. This is my forecast. Now we can ask Jose Angel what is the forecast for the prices of palm oil, and then we have everything.
Well, I will answer the same way you replied. because if palm oil price will be $150 below sunflower. So basically, I mean, generally speaking, for the next 5 years, I would say that the trend is probably stable to up. Why? Because yields are not expanding, and as I said, the area is not expanding. So we are having problems to produce what the world needs. Having said that, obviously you have ups and downs during the and then when you have we had right now, we had a La Nina weather pattern a year ago, so this is going to affect the yields. So if suddenly the yields go up, obviously the prices will come down. So maybe by the end of this year we are going to have lower prices, maybe, as we said before, maybe $200, $250, $300 below today's levels. So $1,000 roughly for sunflower oil. Maybe palm oil will be 800, 850. Premium, long term, again, long term, I fully agree with Luis Carlos. The average for the next 5 years, 80 to 150, that's a reasonable premium over conventional sunflower oil. However, there can be fluctuations during the next few crops. Next crop is going to be good for conventional sunflower and probably also for high oleic. So still the premium will not probably reach those levels, but then the market will have to ration a little bit maybe you will have one year you will have to reduce a little bit the plantings, then next year to increase it a little bit depending on the premium. I would say maybe next year I would place the premium in probably 80 to 100, not 150, but for the next 5 years maybe the average will be closer to 150, better than only 80.
Yes, just to help you.
Yeah, thank you for
Caterina.
Yeah, thank you for not forecasting the zero, because this gives hope for the next discussion to talk about the local market. And today we were so happy to get your opinions from thousands of kilometers away from Ukraine. And we will be so glad to see here in Ukraine finally when we will have this post-COVID rehab. Thank you.
Caterina, I want to mention you something because we're talking about in oil. Jose Angel and I have been talking in oil about prices, and $1,000 oil, more or less between $400, $450 seed. So you have to consider that the one ton of oil of sunflower seed produce 0.42 of oil. So when we talk in oil, you multiply by 30, what can be the price for farmers.
Okay, thank you. So see you in Ukraine next time.
Thank you.
And have a nice day.
Thank you.
So dear friends,
Thank you
we
very
actually go right now to the second panel, local panel of discussion on the perspectives of forward contracts in Ukraine. And right now we have, let's say, this magical triangle. We have the manufacturers, the processors, and trading experts, oil trading experts, and we will try to understand where the margin is and whether we have an effective options for forward contract. So as you know, within the last 10 years, in fact, the high oleic sunflower areas, these been increasing only once. It decreased, only once after the price downfall in 2016. After we had the downfall for the high oleic premium, and this trend is maintained. It's maintaining by 2022. So what can we have in 2021? So Whether this will reject the further growth of volumes, when we speak about the sunflower, so the processing, so the trends of the big companies, we have the representatives of big companies here right now, and I'd like to pass the floor to Anna Korsch, a representative of the company of Agroprosperis, to actually provide the review to share their experience on growing the high oleic sunflower. What is the trend, decreasing or increasing? So what expectations may we have for the next year, Anna? So good afternoon. I'm so grateful to the participants, and we are really happy to join the discussion. The group of Agroprosperis companies, this is the leading manufacturer of agricultural products in Ukraine, funded by the American Investment Fund, NCH Capital. And we can actually get to the presentation right now. So the Agroprosperis is operating with the areas of approximately 300,000 hectares, so 45 farms, 45 households, and also the network with 11 elevators, and you can see them on the map. Grain elevators in Sumy region, Kharkiv, and also Vinnytsia, and western Ukraine as well, Khmelnytsky and Rivne regions. Agroprosperis is exporting approximately 3 million tons of different agricultural products. Our key crops, you can see them. So grain, sunflower, wheat, corn, rape, and also oils and fats, rapeseed, soybean, and sunflower. And also I'd like to add this year, we've opened this niche of the sunflower product processing, and we exported the product successfully this year. So you can see our geography, the geography of our buyers, Asia, Africa, Europe, of course, and Middle East. This graph you can see in the green bar, the production of HO sunflower within the last 3 years, and also the trend that we forecast for the next year. This is the plan that we defined for us as the master plan. So from the company's experience, HO sunflower growing starting from, we've been doing that since 2015, and we increase the volume of production. Next year, we actually expect that 90% of all the sunflower will be HO, high oleic, more than 220,000 tons. This year, the production, we had approximately, with the same volume we grew more of the classic sunflower, and out of this volume, 100,000 tons were processed, and respectively, we exported 50,000 tons of oil. Out of this, half or 60% was high oleic. So we decided to go to the processing project to actually expand the market in long-term context, also to establish the cooperation with the final end consumers this product, and we also plan for the next year actually to process even more and not to depend only on Ukrainian processors as we did before. Thank you. So I had a lot of, I did not have so much time actually to present many slides. If there are questions. So we have some questions. First of all, please do share what are the key challenges in growing the high oleic sunflower? What do you mean? I mean how hard it is for you to maintain its segregation or to negotiate with neighbors for the fields not to be neighboring, let's say, not to get the bordering fields, or you somehow promote the neighbors to grow HO sunflower as well and to increase the volume? Thank you for your question. So yes, truly, we have certain efforts, production efforts and storage efforts, and there are special conditions to work with this product. We save it, store it at our elevators to keep the quality, but also we work with external elevators. For us, it's really important to actually ensure segregation in drying and storage, in delivery and so on. And the capacity of the elevator whether the elevated is possible to define the oleic acid percentage. So no difficulties for the production. We have really nice experience and everything works very well, works properly. So we support the agricultural producers. We have a program on high oleic sunflower when we offer the farmers to use hybrid, also the protection products, fertilizers, and then we are committed. Then we actually take the commitment to buy this product after it is grown, and we provide full technical support as well. So what is the premium for this year with your supply? So this year we offer for $15 for a ton, or approximately $40 per hectare if the yield is higher than 3 tons per hectare. So please tell me, do you prefer forward contracts for HO sunflower seed oil, which you basically sell, or what is the percentage? So a huge piece of the yield we sell forward contracts, under forward contracts with the premium fixed or like the flat price. We definitely understand it as a huge advantage, the opportunity to contract it in such a way. And another question, so what is the percentage in forward contracts, and how you fix it? Only premiums or the total price? So both options we do use. Up to 50% of the yield, we actually plan it forwards, and we will also try to do the same thing for oil. Wonderful, thank you. And also another question, do you think that HO sunflower growing, is it a win-win situation? Is it a good situation? So the price of the seed and the yields, is it the same with the classic type, with the optimum logistics, when households, they have their own areas for storage, they have minimum losses for segregation, and in fact, option only for premium without the threat of decrease? We truly believe in the future of this project, of this product, and the scope of our production for the next year and the plans. It's actually a confirmation, it's a proof, and we think that the market sooner or later will rehabilitate, return the premiums, and for our farmers it will be satisfactory. Great, really great. Thank you, Anna. So I really want to ask the other presenter, Alexander Tereziev. It's very nice to see you, representative of one of the biggest oil processing companies in Ukraine, Kernel Company, and a little bit more about experience of growing and processing of high oleic sunflower. He'll tell in his presentation about it. So Katerina, good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation. It's really nice to stay with you, and I do hope that the information that actually I will present will be useful for someone to make certain decisions. So, the first slide of the presentation is, maybe you all know what that is, the graph for the premium change for the HO oil, HO sunflower oil. As you can see, from the period of high premiums, we came to almost zero premiums, and what was mentioned by our colleagues from Spain, that so many oils are being replaced, and respectively consumers, they can see that the price for the sunflower oil is too high, so they don't think it's really feasible. They don't think it's reasonable to pay any premium for the HO sunflower oil. So this year, unfortunately, all the manufacturers in us as well, we do suffer from it. So the next slide, the areas for the HO sunflower, the growth of areas during the period, and the yield of 2018. In green, you can see the share of kernel. the share of kernel in areas and in manufacturing of HO sunflower oil. When we talk about the current season, though, if we take 9% out of 550,000, you can see the share. And what is really typical for this year, if you take the graph, violet line, something that we talk about. How did the lack of premiums affect the segregation of HO sunflower? Segregation of HO sunflower from the classic one. The manufacturer can see that there are no premiums. There is no initiative, and there is no basically sense to store it separately. That's why producers, they sell it as classic sunflower, as usual sunflower, understanding that basically there is no other way. Right now, there isn't. So this slide, we just need to do this. So this slide shows the historical data on export of high oleic oil from Ukraine, and respectively the geographic distribution. So on this map, we can see the number of high oleic oil sold to different regions of the world. And as we can see, last year, the biggest volume went to China and Spain, and also to other countries. I mean, the HO sunflower, but really, and to other countries as well. But these, let's say, are the leaders: Spain and China. And what we talked about in the previous discussions, panel discussions, is that Chinese market tried last year. They tried HO sunflower. This year we can see there are no premiums, and we do think that potentially absence of premiums for HO will allow the potential buyers of HO sunflower to try it, taste it, assess the quality, and respectively think on maybe certain potential long-term contracts on supplying the HO oil to these countries. So we also mark the volume. The forecasted volume of oil export for the current year. We will see whether it will be like we expect it to be. So the segregation in this year, according to our calculations, will be lower than the last year. So the volume of exported oil will be sufficiently lower. So the next slide. The export geography is changing every year. For HO oil, we can see it. It's decreasing. And what I told you about, last year the import of oil to China grew sufficiently comparing to previous years, and this year we forecast to have the significant increase. So China this year will definitely be maybe the key driver for the HO segment and for other grains even, and for other crops as well. So the next slide. So the share of kernel in HO oil export. So for the last year, we can see that we have this stable increase, and kernel step by step is growing the export volume. And you can see the key countries, main countries, where we actually ship the products, which import the Ukrainian products. If you want me to stop. So yeah, China, Spain, we have Netherlands, UK, Italy. Top 5. This is basically it. Thank you for your attention. If you do have any questions, please, I'm ready to answer. Yes, so we do have certain questions. Alexander, tell me, what are the key challenges when it comes to accumulation of certain volumes of sunflower and certain patterns of processing? I mean, the HO sunflower. Do you have the localization, regional localization, or do you have the optimization of batches or specific processing factories? When it comes to challenges on harvesting, well, we as kernel, we don't have it maybe, but producers, maybe our neighbors, maybe someone has some problems, I don't know, but the level of automatization in Ukraine is growing. And I do think that basically there is no problem with harvesting and certain problem with segregation and respectively the separate storage in elevators. But well, we just need to prepare to it in advance. And if you really want to separate HO from the classic one at your farm, so you need to, of course, you need to negotiate it in advance with the elevator. The geography of production, so a company, we have 7 factories, processing factories, which process sunflower. Also, they can process HO sunflower as well. But the company decided to concentrate the processing of HO sunflower in Kropyvnytsky city. Effectively, all the volumes that we buy, everything that we produce ourselves, in the end, these all are brought to our factories in Kropyvnytsky, and then we ship it in ports. Unfortunately, for internal market, we don't work. So tell me, please, a couple of years ago in 2017, we do remember that premium for the HO sunflower was absent, it was 0, and for some time we even had these discounts on receiving the sunflower in cold period. We know that the oil itself may freeze, HO oil, so it's susceptible to low temperatures, and we had discounts. And this year we had no premiums, discounts as well. We did not hear about it. So what are the parameters? When exactly the oil, let's say, freezes, and can we solve it by mixing certain volumes with a classic one? Do you check every batch of classic sunflower? Do you check the level of oleic acid? If we talk about the storage of HO sunflower, it is being stored just like any other product at elevators. Processed only during warm temperatures, because within low temperatures the HO characteristics will simply be destroyed, will simply vanish if we process it in winter, let's say. Maybe I did not understand your question. What do you mean by freezing? Solidification or what? So the batch of HO sunflower can be mixed with the batch of classic, or you're trying not doing that. So when it comes to segregation at the plant or a factory, of course, at factories in Kropyvnytsky, we have this separate queue, separate line for HO, and we do check the oleic acid, of course, if a car goes with the sunflower, and if we understand, if this is an HO sunflower, it goes to another queue, to respective line, and we segregate HO sunflower from classic, the processing. And in any case, certain batches, HO batches, may be processed in the classic line when let's say, for example, we have the oleic acid lower than 72%. For example, we can actually make this decision to take it as classical. This year we all witnessed how late crops had lower yields, and also the corn and sunflower, and obviously we had this high volatility, which actually impacted the number of forward contracts, maybe not that huge number of contracts, but with forward contracts. This year, how do you see the enforcement of forward contracts in HO segment? I think that this year market faced so many problems concerning the commitments, meeting the commitments of forward contracts. And of course, kernel company was also in that situation. We have certain negotiations ongoing with the companies with low yields. We try to find the common ground with them, speak the common language, and try to somehow to agree upon that. So I don't see what we have had in mass media, you know, this campaign, like they told that no one is meeting the requirements of forwards. Yes, we have so many producers in Ukraine who actually take the commitments that they have. We are so grateful for it. And we always are ready to cooperate with the companies, and we will always try to meet their needs as well and to help them. Concerning the perspective for the following year, well, you can see that the current price for sunflower is really high, and forward market, I don't know whether it's ready, whether the traders are ready to go further with this forward program when we speak about the 2021 yield. But for those partners that we do work together for such a long time, who actually meet all the requirements, yes, we definitely are ready to work with their proposals, sunflower proposals in the next year, including HO. Nice, really great. Thank you. And right now I'd like to pass the floor to the next participant. So do you have any questions? I have a question. So Alexander, in your presentation, you had this indication that within 3 years, your company is a player of HO production market. I'd like to know what's your strategy, sales strategy. You and your company, how do you sell this HO sunflower? And I'll have another question. Concerning the strategy, the sales strategy, well, we also take the options of long-term contracts where we can see, we consider this option. Where we get this acceptable level of premiums. For HO, we try to fix it, and we try our partners directly in the program. We try to recommend to our partners, we try to offer, like here we have today certain levels related to HOs. If this is really acceptable for you, then we are ready to take you on board and move together. That's why step by step, you know, with small steps, we are not looking forward to get $400 premiums to sell everything we have like we had it previously. So at level of $400, you will not be able to find a person who will pay this 3-year premium. I mean, $400. So you always need to find certain golden middle, I'd say. Yes, you need to be balanced, and we try to be balanced. You had this graph on segregation, and I do agree with that. So with such prices for the sunflower, well, many people will start thinking whether it's necessary to segregate. So we can just put in one box, and the premium simply will not cover the expenses then. And maybe some producers will not even bother themselves with that. So how it works for you in your company? So did it affect you somehow? So we have no premium right now, yes? So how did you solve it? So if we talk about the company, within the last years, we had, well, we tried to fix, as I told you, certain expected margin, planned margin for HO within the period. So yes, we had certain commitments from the last periods, which we had to meet and this year. And of course, it was really hard to find demand for HO. But all HO sunflower we produce, we put it to our factories and then we process it. So we don't have the situation when we mix HO and classic sunflower at factories and then just ship elsewhere to processing without any difference where exactly it goes. In any case, we try to segregate it. We do it and then only we ship it according to its class, let's say. Alexander, thank you. And we have a question to you in the chat. What is the proportion of refined and non-refined HO in export? Well, I will not tell you because our share in export of HO oil, 5% maybe. Maybe you can tell me what is the percent for the packaged products? I mean the HO product comparing to, no. We do not have packaged product. The whole volume of HO product, we sell it. We sell it in bulk. Very small share is containers, shipped in containers, but mostly in bulk through the terminal, and then it's being exported. Really nice, dear friends. I remind you that we'll have an opportunity to ask questions to representatives of today's companies and holdings and producers and processors of high oleic oil and classic oil. So please write in the chat, and right now I pass the floor to Yuri Slanchak, representative of MHP company, to present information about the company. Then we'll have questions to you, Yuri, and our general discussion on forward contracts. Thank you, Katya. Thank you so much. I will try not to take a lot of time for us to discuss. It was actually the aim, and we will leave some time for discussion. I'll be very brief. So what we have today in our company, vertically integrated agricultural holding company with assets, with international assets, Ukraine, Balkans, and Netherlands. Distribution office we have in Dubai, our key office. Our key focus is in production of poultry and also processing of meat, and also growing the crops in agricultural areas. So these are the key brands. I think many of you know the brands, what the brands are. So the agricultural sector in our company represented with this. So we process 360,000 hectares, 2.4 million tons of grains and all seeds are produced. We have 3 factories where we process vegetable oils. We produce sunflower oil and soybean oil, and also feedstuff production for our own poultry farms, and also we have the full cycle of production, and we have the biogas station as well. This is actually the focus of the company. So concerning the HO sunflower, yes, well, first of all, we take it as a separate business. We take it as a separate professional center. Within the framework of this cycle that we have, we speak about the current areas, sunflower areas. In this cycle, in this chain of sunflower growing to processing, and then we have protein for the feed stuff and for the poultry. So in this chain, we have sunflower, and we can replace sunflower. We can grow HO actually and replace it with HO. So we take it as a separate business. And also I have this margin of safety separately here, in which conditions we enter the business. And take the margin. We can see the margin that we have in this business. We want this to cover the probable deviations, potential deviations in the yield. So I'll tell about it later. So another key thesis, another key statement is that 70% of the harvest is contracted by the forward. So we do not try to have these open positions in this part of the business. Concerning the history, my colleagues told about this. So we as a company, as a producer, we have this experience, we had this previous experience. I'll just show you the recent history, 5 years. Let's say the percentage of HO sunflower in the production of classic sunflower in our country, it depends, first of all, on the premium that we can get for this sunflower. So in this graph, we can see the history. So we have the lines showing the percentage of HO, the share of HO, and we can see that in 2020, last year, for us, it's already history we've closed. It already, the area percent was one of the highest in the history. We saw the high premium, we fixed it, we grew it under the sold contracts, I mean the sunflower, and we closed the business. Plans for 2021, small decrease, small decline. We can see certain problems with the premium fixing, and for the first time, I guess, we go into the season with a low percent fixed, the fixed premium, because right now the market, well, is a little bit limited for the future period, and there is no opportunity to fix it. So here we have the yield, so we will not touch upon that, and I'd like to stop with this. This would be even more interesting, taking into account the questions that we had. So I separated this average premium for the oil that we managed to fix, certain insights, for the whole volume that we produced. So in 2016, for example, $62 of premium well. It sounds really low, but at that time it was really high. But in 2017, we had only like 4% of sunflower planted, and 164 premium we had 163, and then we had more oil planted. 200 we planted more. Then we had even forwards, some nice forwards concluded for the oil, and we managed to plant more. Tells us about what exactly? That strategy of forwarding and strategy of long-term contract conclusion for the oil supply, which actually precede your production. At first, you move simultaneously with the planting plans, and you contract simultaneously for you to know where to use that oil, so when you grow the sunflower, you process it, where to sell the oil. The strategy shows that certain sense there is in it, because you have an opportunity to fix nice level, of course, except of this year when we have certain problem with the sales. Now the graph Sasha showed it, the same graph, I guess, that Sasha had, and these somehow coincide, maybe coincide even with the Spanish graphs that we had. So yeah, the premium is very volatile. I think this is the highest, the huge challenge that we have today. Many producers, they do have it, to enter the business and to speculate with a premium. It's really risky. And when we just take the history, yeah, so we can see that you have all the risks. You may have, it may break the bone of your business. It may break your business model. So I wrote these 3 key challenges that we have, and other producers, they do have. First, premium volatility. So what is the solution? What can be a response for it? And again, what our Spanish colleagues told, so contracts, fixing premiums for the future yields, for future crops, 1, 2, 3 years in advance. If you can fix it, just a part of your crop, 30%, maybe 50%, just to fix it, for you to have this guarantee that the part of your premium will be secured and you will not be in open position. Second issue, the market is not that liquid when we speak about 2-3 years ahead. Low demand for long-term premium contracts. Starting From autumn each year, we start selling spring plus 1 year. So we have like 2 years in advance. In 2020, we sell for 2022. In 2019, we were trading for 2021. So the liquidity is low. And what to do with that? We need to discuss in the format of our club as well, and in the format of among the big processors and consumers and Lipsa, and we may have top consumers of vegetable oils as well. We need to discuss and to generate certain programs which would allow at least for the part of the volume to fix the premium. And also I separated one of the patterns, one of the aspects, additional risks and cost of production of HO sunflower, because, well, as we can see, the HO sunflower hybrids, we have fewer. Maybe it will be, you will be less flexible with these hybrids, and I would put this risk on yield decreasing maybe from 5 to 10%. I would actually expect that yield loss, 5-10%. So briefly, I would characterize it with such statements. And just to conclude, this is a separate business. This is a separate business. This must be a separate business with certain steps. It's absolutely forecasted. It's expected. If you think a year or two in advance, you may even stay in a safe zone with your premiums. And you can go in this project only when you fix, yes. And of course, when you don't want to turn to enrich your life with, fill your life with some things. If everything is okay with adrenaline, if you don't want to get more adrenaline in your blood, then this business, it can be forecasted. It can be, you may have certain expectations. The more long-term contracts you have, the less volatility with premium will have. Another comment of what I actually, what we're actually talking about, the low premiums can actually be an advantage for us. The more markets will know. China never bought so much oil as we had in 2020. From Ukraine, we never had such a huge export to China. So potentially for us, these are new markets. These are new doors to enter. So we have positive aspects in everything. Shall we have premiums or not? I think we will have these returned. We can see, we can hear about risks from so many players about mixing. It comes to seed and to oil as well. Yuri, in your slides, you showed 2021, 17%. And as far as I understand already, this is like already complete for the next slide. We have the premium fixed, and you told us that, yes, here, that this is already done. But we understand that this sunflower is not planted. So you fixed it in advance and sold it in advance, yes? Well, yeah, we do it like that. We fix the seed. When you enter the business, you don't know whether you have the seed or not. What will the price be for the seed? At the moment when you enter the business, when seed companies tell you that this volume is reserved for you, we will sell it with this price, you start understanding the price of the sunflower production, the expenses, and the supply chain for you is clear then, and you start calculating what we do. We contract it. What you don't know is the production, of course. Yield per ton, well, this is your risk. You don't know what you will have. This is the risk you take. Yeah, adding in the microphone, Alexander also tells about the quality of HO, and we can see it in the history that we managed to have 82% of oleic acid. We managed to hold it. So I think with the right selection, with the right breeding, with the right equipment, with right approaches, you have a good chance to harvest high quality sunflower with the forecasted volume, well, except of like 2020 when we had the situation, the whole sunflower that was produced, HO and classic, it all went down, I mean, the production. So coming back to your question. So getting the seed, we will fix the premium, but this year, this premium is fixed with small volume, smaller percent maybe than within the history, because we had no opportunity to fix it more. So we had no market. So if we take again the slide, in the end of the slide, when we have this huge peak, this peak for the oil price, and the premium is close to zero.
Okay.
And approximately up to 70%. So you are ready to fix if it's comfortable. Up to 70, yes, up to 70. If we talk about expenses, there is a question from Luis Alonso. We have this question right now.
I can do that.
1 minute, 1 minute. Yes, we have it. He asks, so right now maybe
I can do that.
maybe Jose Oliviero first. He has a question to our participants.
Yeah. Well, basically, what I'd like to know is from the participants, what is the minimum premium that you consider that you should be, or a farmer should be paid in order to plant high oleic and segregate it? Is it 10, 20, $30 per ton? What is the, let's say, the fair premium?
Yuri, so yes, maybe Yuri will say, for me, I would take it as at the level of 10% of the price, of the sunflower price. So this is something that Luis Carlos told about. So this percent he gave us, this percent he also mentioned, a percent from the sunflower price. We also need to mention, using the example provided by Yuri concerning the premiums, for the farmers to understand and consumers to understand that premium for oil, we need to divide it by 2 or more to understand what is the premium for the sunflower, what the premium should be for the sunflower. Because 120, for example, in the oil price, so we can count like 50 for the price of the sunflower directly, but not for oil. Yuri, thank you. And we also have, I would like maybe this question from Jose, maybe Sasha and Anna. Well, if we talk about the level of premiums for HO, for the oil, I think we have like 150, from 150 to $250. We have this range. We are very optimistic, enthusiastic about the market. We try to be optimistic. We try to stick to this optimistic strategy. Anna, I will add as well. So taking all the periods of planting and the season as well, so we can see the level of sunflower premiums, $50. I think $50. These are the expectations. We would like these expectations. I speak about this average. It's about the average. Nice, really nice. So if we talk about the correlation of prices for the sunflower oil and HO oil, the Platts index. Yuri, first of all, you hedge a lot. You do hedge a lot. So how you assess the opportunity to use such tools to not just fix the premium, but also to protect your position on usual classic oil? So what would you advise, what you use, and what options we do have? So in my company, we use this natural hedge. So we buy the seed, sell oil like this. And as a rule, we sell oil through fixing the premiums, by fixing the premiums. So the basis is not fixed. We fix the premium. And the basic price of oil is calculated within the period of supply, 1 month prior to supply. So it's an interesting question concerning the indices. You know, my opinion, I'm very open to these things. And I do think that the more the processor, the more the tools the processor has, the easier for us it would be to make decisions, the more comfortable and proper strategy we will use in our vision. When we talk about specific things, right now we have this Platts index, and we can see it in open access. So sunflower index we have on the C4 base, and the potential is limitless. And we have certain issues on liquidity, but well, as any new tool, still it's in the growing phase right now. And how can we use it? For example, when we sell oil, or maybe even sunflower, the farmer who wants to fix the sunflower price, his buyer, his off-taker, the product off-taker gives only one option. For example, I can take this, I can take your high HO sunflower, the fixed price, and he does not give an option to fix the premium or any other additional tools. The farmer can use the index as a counteraction to the fixed price sale. So in simple words, when we sell sunflower, when we fix the price for the sunflower and we fix the margin, if a farmer wants to stay, or the producer wants to stay in the market and take part because he has his own vision that the oil price will grow, he will have an opportunity to buy this tool, buy the same oil via the index. But usually we fix the premium. I'd like to ask participants, you fix the premium, you do not fix the total price of HO oil. So I'll tell you, yes, with a forward, yes, in the forward we of course fix it, because actually the difference between the classic sunflower and HO is in the price of, isn't this additional value. So you understand that your task is to cover the price of these additional costs. So you cover it with this additional premium for the sunflower or the oil. Do we have any differences? Yeah, Yuri says it absolutely correctly. He's correct. Yes, we all fix for the future period. We fix the premium for HO, and then in the contract we just put any formula of price formation for classic oil, and respectively, well, according to the contract, they simply pay. So yes, if we talk that HO is flat priced, well, this is the price for spot now, and here I want to sell 1,000 tons, and that's why the price is given for today. If for the future period, then exclusively premiums. Concerning this price formation formula, what options do we have on fixing the price for usual classic sunflower? What to add? The premium should be added to. If we talk about the forward sales, well, this the premium is added to the price. HO premium is added to the oil price itself. If we speak about the internal forwards for the seed, for the sunflower seed, yes, this is very creative approach of each company. Well, for example, at the elevator, and it is fixed. Well. Forwards in its classical form, forward contracts are being concluded for the supply, like for the factory, the port factory also in Ukraine, and respectively, if the producer wants to sell the sunflower seeds at the elevator, if a trader or processor is ready to buy it, and he understands how much the logistics will take, what the price will be, and it all just goes to the basic price of the elevator, and this is not a big problem. Anna, do you have a comment? No, I fully agree concerning the formula. Yes, it works in certain way. So the multi-year contracts, did you sign it, conclude it with fixed prices for 2-3 years or not? And what is the perspective for you? Do you see the perspective in these contracts? Well, in oil segment, we are not that experienced players at the market. So the forward contracts that we had only with a flat price, We contracted it. Regarding the sunflower, well, yes, we have this experience of 3-year contracts with the companies, reliable companies. We fixed only the premiums, and by the period of supply, by the end of the year, of the harvest year, of the yield year, we had an opportunity to fix the spot price for the classic sunflower, and we picked the moment when we did it. And this is a really good option for the producer to work in that mode. Flat prices are as well in forwards, but also the percentage with fixed premium, we have more. Many producers are afraid that when they conclude forward contracts, there are certain requirements to the quality, and not always farmers can guarantee this isolation. So the impact of oleic acid percentage on the product which is being supplied is really substantial. And how exactly this is solved? These conflicts, these controversies, when there is a certain discrepancy, please do share your experience, how you manage to solve it, how it happens. I think we need to ask those who buys, because we do not buy HO, just sell. I can tell you from my experience that yes, the issue of percent of the oleic acid is very important. It's critically important. The percent of the acid, the acidity. There is no one single formula because the market does not use standard formula, and some of the buyers are very radical about it. Like, this is the minimum acceptable level, and we do not take something lower than that level. Some understand that there is certain error, certain deviation, so they are more susceptible. It's easier to negotiate with them, but we did not have, from our experience, we did not have any problems with HO. So it was not hard actually to ensure this level of 82. Alexander, share something with us, Alexander. Well, depending on the year, this year you can see that the situation with HO is really different from the previous year. And if we talk about the commercial volumes and the commitments of the supplier and of the processor, there is a huge question when it comes to decision making. A huge question there is whether the trading position is correct. So when you conclude a forward contract today on shipping the HO oil, for example, in December 2021, yes, if we conclude such a contract, we still do not understand how the premium will change within the period. And respectively, for us as for processors, working with commercial grain as well, for us, it's very important to meet the commitments, fulfill commitments according to the supply, under supply contract, because if the premium changes, if it goes up, like we fixed premium at $50, and at the moment of contract performance, it will be 150, and low yield will be there because of the weather, and a very bad story with the acidity and so on. So if we have all this of course is a disadvantage for the company. This is a problem, and we try to trace it, we try to control it, and we try to enter the forwards just with the reliable companies we are sure about, we are confident in, and the percentage, we try to minimize these problems. And respectively in the spot market, when we the quality of the yield is really clear for everyone, we just buy as it is. So with this, it's easier, of course. I know that we have questions from Luis Carlos to you. Luis Carlos, you are there.
Thank you.
Please.
I'd like to make a comment on what you have said before on the premiums, and for the farmers to understand, because I've been in this business a long time, and I always find the same question by farmers with the industry. Why is the difference in the premium? And let me explain to you that one 1 kilogram of sunflower seed has 42% oil. So any premium you pay on the seed, it is going to go on 1 kilo, goes actually on top of 420 grams of oil. So in order to calculate a rule of thumb, normally farmers' premiums converted into the oil premium is 2.5 or 3 times this value. And this is one of the reasons why I believe there is no really good future for high oleic soybean, because soybean is an oil seed that has 18% oil in the seed. So any premium you pay on seed goes to 18% of the crop. So sunflower is much better because we have a high oil percentage, but it's still a premium on seed multiplied 2.5 times, and you get the oil, the price for the oil crusher. So don't be surprised, the crusher has to make some margins as well on top of that. But my question to the large two players here in the big agro holdings, and you can also answer, Caterina, because I know you are one of the earliest fans of high oleic sunflowers, and your experience is also welcome to be shared here. Have you had any problem following the protocol Syngenta provided to you to grow high oleic sunflowers and to get this minimum 82% in your past history? This is a question to all the panel.
So I can start telling. Yes, actually, we do have certain experience of working with HO sunflower and growing the HO sunflower truly for the seeds, Syngenta seeds. Well, we had never any problems like that, but we have another side of the coin. You told us right now that we require 72%, but the majority of those who buy this at the market, they want 73 or even 75% to actually be 100% confident that the quality, the final quality will correspond. So 1, 2, or 3%. So this is the issue. Even referred to the premium added to the basic price with 72%. For example, this usually is an issue related to negotiation between the supplier and the buyer. So comments from the colleagues, please. What is your situation? We never had any problems to get 82%. We never had it. We also had some batches with 84%, 85%, I can say. Something that you tell us, we sold them separately. With separate Asian buyers who are ready to give us premium for oleic acidity even higher than was expected. So we have a market, and we have these values at the market. As far as I understand, well, as far as I know, we had no problems. So no remarks. Everything was fine. Thank you, Anna. Maybe something. No, absolutely no problems. Sunflower sales and oil sales. So the production shows that the percentage is really high, 82, 85 plus. We even had. And we can separately segregate it if we know that we have these forward contracts. Everything is fine, I can assure you.
Okay. This is so. This is what I expected in Ukraine because of the large farms. If you have good isolation on one side and you do not mix it at planting or volunteers in the field or whatever, it is very likely that you will get above 82. And if you use desiccation, even more. I have seen batches of over 88% oleic in Ukraine, and this is much more difficult in countries with small plots, small farms. But in any case, this is clearly one of the key elements in the high oleic sunflowers is the proper segregation during all the steps. from the beginning, from the planters, from everything that you do. And if you do that properly, I remember we did some training with some of you, and this shouldn't be a problem. Climatic problems are possible, but they are very, very unlikely if the things are done properly. But there are issues. There are issues, and every year we have issues on new farmers coming into the game. So those that are contracting, if you're contracting with new farmers, please remind them to follow the strict protocols we are providing them. Second question I want to ask, since you are managing big agro holdings, what proportion of your sunflower area is planted with Oleic and Classic in the last years, and what do you expect to do this year, particularly this year? Maybe next year as well, but this year I'm very interested to compare this year with last year. Maybe Kernel, maybe Anna can start, or Yuri, whoever wants.
So we try when we see this volatility with HO premiums, we try not to maximize our areas for HO sunflower. We try to be more restricted in that matter. Maybe if the premium was higher or was more stable, there would be some sense to maximize the areas with HOs. But this year, as I told you, we had approximately 50,000 hectares. How many we'll have next year? Well, I can't tell you. I can't understand the situation still. And if we have less or more, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Anya. Well, speaking about us, last year we had approximately 45,000 of hectares. This year, 76 we'll have. We're increasing, and respectively, the production of sunflower will go down. Okay, so I saw that you will decrease. There will be a double decrease due to smaller premiums. I mean the percentage, the share in the total volume of classic sunflower. So we try not to speculate. We try not to play with these premiums and enter the business when we have the premiums, when we have the margin. Luis Carlos, is that all?
No, then I asked the question in another way to the crushers in this case. I have made my own estimation of what I believe is going to be planted in Ukraine according to what we sell, our market share, information from here and there. But you have a much more direct feeling on the area. I like to know from your perspective, do you expect sunflower area? How many total areas? 6.5, 6.7, 7 million? How many hectares do you expect? And in the regards of Oleic sunflower versus last year, do you expect the same, more or less than last year?
Thank you for the question. Thank you. I remember the slide from your presentation. You forecast a slight decrease in Ukraine. I don't know. I think somehow I expect, this is my gut feeling. I think that these areas, 510, 520,000, mostly these are composed of not such agro holdings as we are, not of big companies, but mid-level companies which are very susceptible and vulnerable. And these are very susceptible to price changes and respectively to premium changes. So how they will behave, will they increase the areas, or maybe will they leave it at the same level as we had this year? So, well, I don't want to forecast, I can't. Maybe you will tell us in April. You will calculate the seed volume, and you will give us some very good calculations. What can we tell it? That the prices, such prices for the sunflower, for the oil, including the new yield, we can see it already today. The bids on contracts higher than $500, these will stimulate farmers to actually plant more sunflower. It's clear that farmers Every household will be planted, I guess, with sunflower. This is clear. And HO sunflower, as we told it, this is a win-win situation for all. This is a great option. Upon the condition that household can store it separately. If we talk about the external elevators and we need to pay for the volume, then we have additional expenses. If not, and the storage at the household, well, it's okay then. Let's discuss at whose expense we'll have the increase. If you talk about us, our company grows as much sunflower as actually the process allows us. And I think all the companies that we have here, they actually think about the soil, the condition of the soil. They don't try to overperform. At whose expense we will actually increase? What is the portfolio of the client? I think highly likely we speak about those clients who pay less attention to the equipment, agricultural equipment, and the production. And the HO share there will not increase, but can they actually have this isolation, volume isolation? This will be a question, yes. This will be an issue. For example, the seed from the previous years that is growing, it also impacts the acidity level as well, oleic acidity level, and we may have more problems with it. Frankly speaking, I don't see this like a tragedy. It's not a big problem for me, because when we take the level of segregation within the previous years, when the premium was actually feasible, it was reasonable, and it gave an opportunity. It stimulated farmers to store it separately. Well, I don't see this as a problem. If the producer, trust me, if the producer will be interested, if there will be certain stimulus to get the money, he or she will build a wall like Trump just to store it separately, store the HO separately. So they will plant, of course, with huge interest, but the final premium will define it, and the oleic acidity level, of course. So we can see this stable trend, and even Anya joined us today. That company is already processing itself, the sunflower and the HO sunflower into oil. So many companies, many producers, I think they have a question. Maybe the key margin is in the processing. I understand that I'm asking all the producers, all the key producers in Ukraine, but still, usually the issue of segregation, we have certain final margin, which is paid by the end consumer. And it's really huge, but how it is being distributed within the chain, how much will the processor get, the trader get, and how much will the farmer get actually? And this is quite an issue. So we need to still provide this motivation to the farmers, and transparency must be there in this additional value. How do you see? Probably maybe there is a tool. Just if we analyze this situation, Yuri, I think you have your vision how to provide it properly. So distribution of the margin, it's really an interesting thing. So again, we can easily calculate it. So we can see the margin or the premium for oil, let's say $100, okay? We can see this additional marginality. So we can see the premium received by the producer of the sunflower, $20. No, let's say $20, $40, depending on the time, depending on the market conditions, depending on what oil outcome you have, actual outcome, how extraction is working, is functioning, what outcome do you have. Then we'll have the relevant distribution of the margin. $20-40 for sunflower and 100 for the oil. Speaking generally, if we speak about the justice, I can hear this note in your voice. Who makes more money? Where's the margin? Where's the margin? So it's not that easy here, because last year the farmer received more for sunflower than the processor, because the processor even had this negative margin quite often. He was covering his expenses, his forward contracts. He bought sunflower with a price he could, a very high price, classic on HO. We speak about HO. There was a huge premium, overpaid premium, just to meet the commitments under the contract. We can have this situation. We have the opposite story. When, for example, the processor having a forward contract with high premium at the falling level, decreasing level, simply can take the sunflower with zero premium or try. Well, as any market, we may have extremities. When we talk about the market when it is in stable condition, we can count oil premium multiplied by the outcome ratio. For example, 0.36 we have of the outcome, but truly the marginality is less for this business. And the extractors who have 46, for example, they have other economy and the premium that farmer gets for the sunflower. But how can we know that this is the premium? How the farmer who's being contracted just with the sunflower, where he can see the margin for the oil being contracted? We can have another period in other contracts, and this is the issue of transparency and opportunity to forecast. If we talk about the markets, let's say stock markets, it's easy to define what the price is and have certain conclusion on trend. It goes up or down at least, but how to understand it, where to read, where to take this, where to see? Katya, a question is there. Will the farmer want to understand the market, analyze the market? Because this is another market when we speak about the vegetable oils, and even taking the colleagues' presentation, very informative presentations, this is a huge flow of information. Truly, information is open everywhere. Anything can be found even in Twitter. And when you have certain wish or skill, if you have time, you can spend time and just find some information. The issue is whether you need it. It's a very good question, but we need to step aside. Maybe the role of processor, maybe it is his role to provide this to farmer as explanation. Tell what is the situation today and how it works, and to provide information, to provide certain options on how to fix the premiums, how to fix the price, and so on. But we distribute reliable sources of information. We separate them from gossips, let's say, regarding the market, and these are different things. So we can hear one thing, but the other thing will be offered on the paper. Sasha, what do you think? I think that depending on the expectations of the manufacturer and depending on the gossips that he gets, he can determine, he can create this price picture he agrees with or he believes in. If we move away from these, if we move away from psychology, then the easiest way to find the truth is to call the trader who directly sells the oil. And if you ask him, he'll tell you, of course, as always, between the buyer and the seller, we have certain moment of negotiation. I gave you a $30 premium, I want 50, la la la, and like, but if the producer truly wants to sell, wants to understand certain perspectives, not just the spot price, but certain perspectives, first of all, he must refer to trader to understand what is the vision of the market for 1 or 2 years in advance, who is ready, who's not ready to conclude the forward on HO oil, and who is ready to give a premium and what premium, and then just build this preliminary picture, let's say, of what's happening. If it's interesting for him to go further, he can read analytics, go through S&Ds and find out where the market is moving, get some information, detailed information, global picture provided by the colleagues, for example, from Spain. And on the basis of the knowledge, using the knowledge he has, talking to traders, and using the knowledge he finds on his own and he analyzes, only then there will be a reasonable decision made. One is just to sell or not to sell. It's just like throwing a coin. If you guess, then you'll be satisfied, and then you'll think you have a God as your best friend. But if there is a mistake, well, the person simply will stop buying HO seeds and will never plant it again. That's why we have independent opinions. Like Luis Carlos has his independent opinion, he's an independent expert, and he can externally provide a recommendation. Anya, do you stand for transparency or efficiency of each element in the chain? I think I stand for both, and professionalism as well, because as producers we saw different prices, different premiums. Sometimes we had these premiums like playing against the processes, but for us it was an additional plus. But now we already know how it is to work at the oil market. We have more transparency right now. We understand what are the relations with the processes and the crush margin, what is there, and what additionally we can get for us. This is an interesting experience, so we really want to move further. But there is no clear answer. So more confidence when you rule your own risks, evidently. Yes, please tell me, does someone of you work with local consumers? I don't know, McDonald's, KFC, or others. Do you have these contracts? Yes or no? We don't work. As I told you, we export everything. Please don't you can give us no names, but we don't have refining. We have this chain with raw oil. This is the last part of the chain, and these companies, they need refined. And for your retail, you don't use it. HO as well. Yeah, thank you. And do you see in this case the perspective of building the chain from the manufacturer to the end consumer? If you remember, Luis Carlos, you remember in 2016 we talked about, maybe not even talked, but we dreamed to distribute fairly or proportionally, call it as you want, the premium on HO oil within the chain, and to move away from this high volatility of premiums, to have certain create certain contracts, direct contracts from the producer to the end, complex contracts from the producer to the end consumer. What are the problems there in concluding of such contracts? Can it be a perspective? I want to ask first of all Luis Carlos, and then I will be so great if you share your opinions.
I prefer the professor to answer that question. I come back after them.
Okay, so we have some ping pong here. Now, who is doing that right now? Okay. So it's a good idea. I remember it since 2016. In 2016, we had it really. The biggest challenge for us will be the length of the chain. This will be the key challenge, and the farmer who grows sunflower today, selling the bottle in the supermarket, well, plus year, 1 year more, maybe more. I think that this length of the chain, it will really be the biggest problem. But I offer to raise this issue again. Let's talk about it. We're ready to be part of the working group.
Katja, I have a question to Katarina.
Okay, so we have Anna talking right now. I can't give you many details, but we do have this small project where we cooperate with a factory, and the factory works with end consumers. So this is an experimental format. What Katya mentioned, the chain, experimental chain, but we don't know how successful it will be, or will we expand somehow in this? But we have this idea. And it's a 2-year project. It's a 2-year project. So we will be so grateful if, well, after this project, maybe you will present some results, both positive and negative. Just showing your experience later. Even if it fails, it will be really interesting to know how it works, because this idea, this dream, how was it realized, would be really interesting. Sasha. It would be really interesting for me as well to find out if it's successful or not.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that certain sense there, it's reasonable somehow maybe, but again, it's about the confidence in your partners, your capacity, production capacity. That's the issue, and the understanding of the price formation mechanism. I think that, I guess, yes. There is a perspective in it. There is a perspective in it. If there is such a discussion, we will take part in that as well. And we will try to look for our place in this turbulent market. Thank you, Luis Carlos.
I can come now to give you some highlights on that. I don't know, honestly speaking, what can happen, but in my view, what is happening now in Ukraine is the market is becoming more and more complex. And this complexity also goes to all the levels, buying, selling, and everything. Few years ago, until last year, actually, there was not actually quotations of the sunflower oil FOB. Now you have a daily quotation, but by Platts. Okay, you might say that this is not exactly what is the market or is not the market. You can discredit, but you have a quotation. Therefore, if you have a quotation in oil daily, you have a possibility to fix way ahead the price according to that price of the oil. What the farmers have to learn to defend one thing that I always say: a farmer that decides today, he decides, I am going to plant sunflowers, and this is a decision he has made. Anya has said he has going to plant 75,000 hectares. Okay, she has committed the expenses for the sunflowers during the next months. That is already committed. And she doesn't know the yield, she doesn't know the price at what she's going to sell. So she is speculating by nature, because she's taking the decision to do an expenses without any coverage of the what is going to be the yield, what is going to be the sales. So the new tendencies are going to cover that. So what the farmers are going to learn, they are learning very quickly how to protect that by hedging that, by selling in advance, by selling in forward contracts, taking as a reference price, maybe Platts, maybe 6/4, maybe whatever, to reference the price in order to cover at least the cost of what they are getting. Because it's not, they are running into a big problem. What you need now is the imagination of, I'm sure the Ukrainians have a lot of imagination to set up these models, because you have already the tools to hedge at least part of the crop the farmer plant. And my recommendation again is always try to do that.
May I say something about, can you listen to me?
Sure.
Yeah, well, basically, I can tell you about this supply chain. We have been in cooperation with Syngenta trying to build up a supply chain for high oleic sunflower oil for years. I remember we started talking about this probably by 2012 or 2013. Unfortunately, we weren't able uh, uh, to come to a nice conclusion for everybody because it was really difficult to put to put all the pieces of the supply chain in agreement. So when the premiums were too high, obviously the buyers didn't want to buy. When the premiums were too low, the sellers didn't want to sell. So there was always a piece of the game that was not agreeing with the idea. So I think people didn't understand very well the expression fair. We need to find a fair premium that compensates all parts of the supply chain. So you need to find a premium that compensates the farmer for doing the segregation and so on. The crusher has to be compensated by the obviously by the segregation of the seed, and probably as one of the members of the panel said, they dedicate one of the factories to only crush high oleic sunflower. So they do that because they expect to make a little bit more margin with the high oleic seed than with classical seed. Also, the refiner has to make a little bit more margin. So and the end consumer has to see a benefit, because if all parts of the supply chain don't see a benefit, so there is no supply chain for this, so there is no agreement. So I think we need to work on a fair agreement, the different parties of the supply chain, and find a reasonable premium to be paid, and then we can succeed, because otherwise we are like today with a situation where nobody can hedge any sort of premium, so you have to pay the premium of the market. Nobody has clear clarity on what the premium is. So it is very difficult to work in this with this raw material, let's say, with this oil, because there is no clarity on what is going to be the premium next year, the other year, the next one, etc. So I think working on agreements, pluri-annual agreements, like 3 to 4 years, would be for the consumers very good, but also for the farmers, because they will have they will be on the safe side. No, they will know that they will always get a premium. But sometimes we are too proud, and we want to make more money every year, and so if you sell the oil at $100 premium, you always say, I'm not happy. I deserve 120. I deserve 150. Sorry, fair premium. That's what we need to develop a nice supply chain.
Thank you for your opinions. And right now, I'd like to ask the final question, because I think it's one of the most popular questions in the chat. Without it, well, we cannot go without it. So we ask experts, and right now we'll get your opinions. The expected prices, okay? So the expected prices for the sunflower and oil, if you can forecast both March, April for the HO sunflower, and the perspective for prices of 2021 in the new season. Your expectations, your forecasts, please. I don't like to forecast usually. Let's talk of what this price gives to seed producer, oil producer in the chain. It gives very nice margin. It make it, and I think this is the key factor that we need to take into account. So with current prices, as a sunflower producer, as an oil producer, in certain chain, you get your margin, nice margin, and without fixing the marginality, if you don't use it, well, this maybe is absolutely incorrect. I take this as an incorrect decision. So high prices stimulate planting more. Production will highly likely grow. Sunflower, soybean, something that stimulates the farmers worldwide to plant oilseed crops. And if this scenario is implemented, and if we have no growth of demand from China, so definitely we'll get it. And Anya, please. I do agree with Yuri, and the current prices actually stimulate farmers. They don't stimulate farmers to decrease the sunflower areas, of course. The forward prices are also very attractive comparing to the previous year, and we will have more of sunflower planted. How much of HO I can't tell you. I think that we'll have less of HO. Certain forecasts concerning the price in March, April, or for the new yield, well, frankly speaking, starting from September, I'm afraid to forecast anything after 2020. So this is purely the producer's decision. This is his product. How they usually say, we grow it, we sell it once. So, okay, think twice. If your forward price is okay, if it's okay with you, so if you're ready to sign an agreement for supply, okay, do it. If you're not sure, grow, harvest, and sell like this. So this is my recommendation. I agree with colleagues, and I think that we will, as producers, pick this strategy of this step-by-step, this conclusion of the forward programs with certain adequate premium. We'll try to move slowly, and we will try to understand how the demand will show us, because still the big market players, they don't have their vision for the future yield right now, and it all goes to liquidity. Concerning the spot prices by the end of the year, well, I'm not ready to forecast, because this is really a mad situation. It's too turbulent. It's really hard to understand how the prices will behave. Thank you so much. So we heard our experts and specialists from Spain, and you all know that the assessment was from 70 to 150 for the premiums, and we will do hope that we'll see these figures and maybe even more. So dear colleagues, certain finalizing comments to share with the participants, because today we have not only experts but also many of those who grows or sells HO sunflower. So first of all, to you, Sasha. First of all, thank you, Luis Carlos. Thank you, Josangel, for your time, for your wonderful presentations. It was very interesting to see them. It was very interesting to know how you perceive the market from the global perspective. I'm so grateful to our partners, of course, to everyone who took part in the online conference, who asked questions, and if we do have certain issues we did not outline, please call me, write me. I'm always ready to talk in any format. Anya, yes, I'm so grateful to organizers for this opportunity, and I'm so happy that colleagues from Spain actually shared their global vision, told us about the processes that we had in 2020, and shared the perspective. And it was really nice to take part in this discussion. And I do think that this is not the last time when we actually see each other, I guess. Okay, so I'll join my colleagues. I agree with my colleagues. So as always, very informative, a lot of information. What I know right now. So the problems that we face almost the same problems. So the challenges are the same. So let's unite. Let's talk more. Let's try to hold more meetings and look for answers. Look for solutions. Let's do it together. Thank you. Colleagues, Jose Angel, maybe you want to give the finalizing remark. What will you wish to Ukrainian farmers and processors?
Well, I wish everybody makes a lot more money than this year. So I wish everybody to have very good yields this year. The weather respect us, and then we have all we become wealthier than last year. And I want to take the opportunity to again thank Syngenta for organizing this event again, and yeah, and hopefully next time it will be we will be present together in Kiev, and I will be hosting in Kiev, and we can all attend this meeting and see each other, network with everybody. Thank you very much.
Okay, in my case, I'd like to thank you, everybody, all the participants, particularly Jose Angel, for sharing his deep knowledge in this palm oil market. No, understanding palm oil market to understand more than 30% of the total global market of oil. So it is the one that really mark the prices for all the crops. And also for the other participants from Miroslavsky, from Kernel, and from AgroProsperis, because they have been very open to these presentations and all these things. I want to wish for the Ukrainians and for the rest of the colleagues there the best for this year in terms of health. Forget about this virus and start doing normal life again, visiting, possibility of exchanging more directly. And thank you for trusting Syngenta, and particularly to the farmers that are participating in this event. Please let us know what are your interests, what are your thoughts, what are your demands, and we will try to organize and we will try to bring you our best participants and people for you to understand and improve your business. So thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next time in live in Kiev.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Luis Carlos. Thank you, Jose Angel. Thank you, dear panelists. I'm so grateful to Syngenta Company and Landlord Media Partner for organizing this meeting. And of course, you all heard that. No simple solutions. Forget about it. There's no just simple indication on what the price will be next year or in another year, the premiums for the HO oils, but we have the understanding that this segment deserves our attention and development. We understand and we are so grateful that we have this free market and that we have supply and demand. And it means that we have this natural selection. And natural selection is something, it's about who is more efficient. Who is the best? Who is the best producer, and who sells it with the best price? This is it. How to produce it better? We can actually evaluate the quality of the seed using the innovative technologies, controlling the isolation and segregation during the selection. We need to take a closer look at the best practices. How to conclude the forward contracts to protect yourselves from the risks. and failures, and maybe see the options. In Ukraine right now, we have a huge selection of those, huge assortment of those. Many people, they do buy HO sunflower. Maybe talk about different clauses and provision of the contracts, how to fix the premiums, how to conclude multi-annual contracts, additional premiums for the oleic acid content, or any other parameters. So see the perspectives, evaluate the market, use maybe the recommendations, external or specialists of the world market, read about it, as Jose told us. So trace, analyze the La Nina situation as well. So to improve yourself, improve your knowledge day by day in all the areas, and maybe start analyzing all together this, and maybe gather in high oleic clubs, hold these meetings to understand the situation better, to make better decisions. So I'm grateful to everyone for this meeting, and what doesn't kill the market makes it stronger to develop. So have a very nice day and stay safe. Goodbye.